Good evening. The Rio Rancho Board of Education meeting for Monday, April 26, 2021 is now in session. Will you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and mute your microphone? Catherine Cullen will present the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Board Member Cullen. We'd like to welcome everyone here tonight, and we ask that Kim, if she would do a roll call for us for the evening.
Yeah, if you can give me about 20 seconds here while I get into that.
Okay.
Okay. Make sure I pull up the right meeting. That would be a good thing to do. Okay, and there we go. All right. Thank you for your patience. And President Galbraith.
Present.
Vice President Morgan.
Present.
Secretary Scott. Board Member Cullen.
Present.
Board Member Cullen.
Present. Coleman, present.
Coleman and Cullen. Anyway, you're both here. We have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Once again, we'd like to welcome everyone out to our meeting tonight. I know we have a lot of visitors here tonight, including some coaches from our schools, which we're super excited to have on with us tonight. We'll start our meeting tonight with some introductory comments by
and commendations, and the other major presentation will be on food services. So I will hold up my comments until that time, if that's all right with you.
Sounds great. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. So our first, we'll approve the prioritized agenda and the proposed time allocations. Are there any questions or movement that needs to happen on the proposed agenda? Is there a motion?
This is Board Member Catherine Cullen. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
And this is Board Member Coleman. I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Catherine Cullen and a second by Wynn Coleman. Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us on this?
Certainly. Vice President Morgan.
Yes.
Board Member Cullen.
Yes.
Board Member Coleman.
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
It's 4-0.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, for our next item is public comment. Tonight we do not have any public comment. The public comment that was received since our last regular board meeting, we read out on Friday during the special meeting. For those who wish to give public comment, you are welcome to do so. Please go to our RRPS board page. You will see a form there where you can give comment, and we would love for you to do so. Our next thing that we're going to do is commendations. And so tonight we're going to start with our first commendation, which will be given by Board Member Wynn Coleman.
Good evening, everybody. If I could ask that all the people that are part of transportation that are on the meeting, if they would turn on their cameras so we can see everybody. I see Lynn. So I just want to thank everybody for participating tonight. And I have had the privilege, I'll say, of getting to know Lynn. We did a pretty intensive 2-day, if you take into the snowstorm, maybe 2.5, 3-day training on Dare to Lead with Brene Brown. And so it was a real privilege to get to know her on a different level. And it's a real honor tonight to get to talk about transportation. I wanted to start out and now this is from the website, but I think it's important that people that are tuned into the meeting really just hear what the vision statement is for transportation. It's safe, efficient transportation for Rio Rancho public school students in a growing community based on trust, caring, respect, and knowledge. And the Department of Student Transportation provides a vital service to students in our community. Our team of bus drivers, bus attendants, mechanics, logistical staff, administrative staff, and others all work together to ensure your child is transported to and from school in a safe, efficient manner. And I had the privilege of talking with Lynn a little bit last week to just kind of get a better idea. Now I know that transportation has been instrumental as we've gone through this past year in just trying to figure out how we're going to transport our students and all the changes. I think that all the staff has been, make plans and then plan on it changing. But it was really helpful for me to get the chance to talk with her a little bit more, and she just was able to provide just some great insight. So what I found out was that there are 64 routes, which means 64 drivers, 21 attendants, 9 standby or activity drivers. And those drivers would fill in if someone had called in. And the day that I spoke with Lynn, the executive director, the transportation department was short 20 drivers. And so in the midst of just kind of taking care of what would be a typical day, she was also trying to kind of handle all of that and make sure that there were enough drivers for the routes. Each driver shows up, they have a 20-minute pre-trip on the bus before they leave in the morning. And the other thing too, that not only has Dr. Cleveland shared about the different routes that we have because of when schools start and making sure that we're able to transport everybody, but because the buses leave all from a central location, that everyone's coming and going at different times because they might have to come in a little bit earlier to go ahead and get to the furthest part of the district. And so when you take the leadership team and understand that not only are they trying to make sure that everything's going smoothly, but they're also trying to keep track of people's coming and going, and what a challenge that can be with so many different moving pieces. And I think the thing that is important to know that a dispatcher and the director come in as early as 5 a.m. Each day as the drivers arrive around 5:30. And it's not like they get to leave at like 3 or 3:30. They actually, someone is there till 5:15 or 6 o'clock in the evening. So it is an extremely long day. And as we have all known, how many changes have occurred, and you think you have something planned, and then in a moment over this past year, it has changed. That's especially true with transportation. They've needed to clock in and clock out, go ahead and clock in, clock out. The public education department would say, now you can open the schools up to this group. And so then what would happen is transportation would need to go ahead and completely change their route, and then send the drivers out to just kind of run the route to make sure that they weren't missing any students to pick up and transport. I think one of the things that is really a strong effort that the transportation department really works for is really to make sure that the special needs routes are taken care of. And I know that they've had to completely reroute the special needs transportation 7 or 8 times due to schedule changes, just to give probably a more specific example. The one thing that I was really impressed with, and I know that Lynn has worked really hard on, and her staff has, is that's responsiveness to the parents. And so I know that what she said is she tries to really work to respond back within 24 hours when people call in. But the other thing too is that people are able to go ahead and leave an email and at dost@rrps.net. And they really try to, even sooner than that 24-hour time, respond to those emails. So Lynn did say, when she sent me just an email, and she said, and so from Lynn, she said to the group, I can't express enough how proud I am of all the drivers, attendants, office staff, and mechanics for being so flexible and understanding this year. Things have been changed from minute to minute, and everyone has pitched in and been very helpful. And I thought I would just kind of wrap up this evening. This is from the vice principal at Rio Rancho High School. And he wrote to the transportation department, "It is my understanding that the bus driver of," and there was a student that was referenced, has been very kind, patient, and caring, going above and beyond with one of our kiddos who sometimes struggles getting on the bus. Please thank him from the Rio Rancho High Ram family. Job well done." So Lynn, and your team, just on behalf of myself and the Board of Education, I just want to thank you for everything that you do, and especially for the attitude as we've gone through this incredible year. So I'll open up, Lynn, if you want to say anything, and then if the board wants to, and Dr. Cleveland. So.
Thank you so much, Board Member Coleman. We really appreciate that. To President Galbraith and all of the board members, Dr. Cleveland, we really appreciate the support that we have received from really everybody in the district. That has been just amazing to us, especially in such a trying year. Everybody's had difficulties. And like I had mentioned to you, Wynn, is that I really cannot express enough how proud I am of the staff here. We have had so many meetings that we go into a meeting expecting to tell them one thing, and before we have the meeting, plans have changed, and nobody even flinches anymore, which could be good news or bad news. But they're so used to it, they just like, all right, let's figure it out, and everybody goes. The drivers and attendants, we change things all the time, and they are just so used to it, they just get on and go what they need to do. Where are we transporting now? What kiddos are going? What grade am I transporting? And they just jump in and get it done. The routers, Karen Ramirez, that is also on, she does our special needs routing. So she has had a lot of challenges trying to get those kiddos rearranged, rerouted every time there's a change, things like that. And the drivers and attendants, they just go on and do it. And it's just been really amazing with such a challenging year that everybody just pitches in and gets it done. It's just amazing.
And Lynn, I just want to say that as a community member, how good it felt to see the buses out on the streets, and what that just kind of represented as kind of back to normal. But anyway.
We all love to see the buses roll out. Karen, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I want to thank you guys for, taking time to appreciate us. We have a really good, dedicated staff behind us that are really pulling through and really just go above and beyond to do everything that we ask them without attitude. They just do it. They just show up for work every day, and it's good to see that you guys are appreciating us. I really thank you guys for doing that tonight.
Thank you, Karen. Dr. Cleveland, do you want to say something? And then the board is welcome to also.
I just want to add my thanks. And, when you talk about change, I hope people understand the scope of the change. It wasn't just a minor adjustment here or there. It's let's redo all of our routes again. And things that we normally only do once or twice a year, they were doing sometimes every day, every week. And it was crazy. But they did step up and they did get the job done, and they really are to be commended. And I know that it's been a really tough year for them. You've done, and we know it has been a monumental task.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Cleveland. Amanda, I'll let you just kind of take from here and see about the board.
Okay, well, just really quick, I just want to say thank you too. This year I had to get my son onto a bus because he was doing virtual school and changed his mind. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? It's going to take a week for all of this to get put through. And I was amazed because I left a message. I got called back really quick, and they're like, no, it's all set up and he can go on the bus tomorrow. And it was such a blessing as a parent who works that I was able to do that. And so it just shows, that you guys are doing such a good job. You're doing such a good job. And my kids have always loved their bus drivers. And so I'm so grateful for all of you and for everything that you've done this year. So thank you.
Thank you.
we'll go really quick over to Catherine Cullen and then to Jeffrey Morgan, and that'll be it.
Thank you. They covered so much of what I would like to say, but I know it's been a tremendous challenges this year, and you guys have all been very flexible on everything you do. And I'll be honest, when I saw the buses come out in my area, when you get really choked up because we know what that means and me getting our students in the schools, and it takes all of your dedication and your teamwork to be able to get those students in. And I know it's very difficult. We've had such a difficult challenge over the years with transportation, with the different tiers and trying to get everything scheduled. And it's just a tremendous amount of work that you had to do, especially this year during the pandemic. And we can't express, um, how much we're grateful, because you truly are really the heroes of getting our little ones to school. And they're the precious cargo that you deliver every day and then you drop off to their parents. So really, we do appreciate you and thank you.
Thank you.
This is Board Member Jeff Morgan. I just want to say thanks. I mean, they've said it all. I really appreciate it. And I really like the fact that the guys came together as a team, because that's the way you get things done. When you come together as a team, people made sacrifices. So really, really appreciate that. And thanks for all the things that you've done, the things that you're going to do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you
Thank
for being
you.
on tonight. Thank you. Okay, that was wonderful. Okay, for our next commendation.
Hi, this is Noreen. And I just wanted to let you know I've finally been able to join. I'll mute now.
Okay, thank you, Noreen. That's Noreen Scott, Secretary Noreen Scott, and I'm glad to know that she's on. If Kim can take a note of that, thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go on to our second commendation for the night, which is for our fall sports state championship teams. And Larry Chavez, our Executive Director of Athletics, is on. And I'm going to have Larry go ahead and introduce everyone who's on. But everyone who's on with sports, you are welcome to go ahead and turn your camera on so we can see you. I'm already seeing all these faces that I know and love so much. So go ahead, Larry.
Well, before I start, I'd like to thank Karen and Lynn. It's been a remarkable situation with the transportation and athletics. We haven't taken anybody off of a route, and it's been really nice working with Karen and Lynn and Herrera Transportation Athletics. It's been a smooth transition this year. Lynn's coach, once I finish with my opening remarks. And good evening, Madam President Galbraith, Superintendent Dr. Cleveland, and fellow members of the Board of Education. Had to endure several peaks and valleys these last 14 months. Continuing to prepare for a season the students were not sure was even going to. In November, the volleyball and cross-country athletes were actually a week from starting their season.
Hey, Larry, I'm going to stop you for 1 second, because you're coming in a little bit bad, and I want to make sure we can hear your voice. Can you try turning off your camera and then talking and see if we can hear your voice clearer? Sometimes a trick, as all of these coaches are virtual teachers, sometimes that works. So let's see if your voice carries a little bit better. Go ahead and maybe start.
Is that better?
It is better. Yeah, try that.
Testing.
Yep.
Okay, I'll keep my camera off then.
Okay, just for the moment.
Okay,
yeah.
Let me start all over again then.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay. Good evening, Madam President Galbraith, Superintendent Dr. Cleveland, and fellow members of the Board of Education. Our student athletes had to endure several peaks and valleys these last 14 months, continuing to prepare for a season the students were not sure was going to even occur. In November, the volleyball and cross-country athletes were 1 week from starting their season. Another stoppage occurred. Finally, in February, the green light was given to our student athletes to begin the fall seasons. At that time, we were all informed all our seasons would be condensed. The Rio Rancho Public School student athletes represented the community of Rio Rancho in an exceptional way. Through the strong leadership of our high school athletic directors, Vince Metzger at Rio Rancho High School and Matt Martinez at Cleveland High School, our student athletes completed their fall season with the following state results. In boys cross country, We had a state championship with Cleveland High School. Coach Kenny Henry, his sixth at Cleveland High School in boys cross country. We had another state championship in cross country. This was the Rio Rancho girls cross country team. Head coach Sal Gonzalez. This was his second state championship at Rio Rancho High School. And then in boys soccer, we had our first ever state championship led by John Shepard, his first. He may not be one of the original head coaches, but he has been there since the beginning because he was the original varsity assistant for 1 year and then took over the program ever since that first year. So we're proud that Coach John Shepard could come through with his first state championship. We had a state runner-up in boys cross country, head coach Sal Gonzalez. And in football, there was not an official state championship because in football, unlike basketball and soccer and some of the other sports where you could play 2, 3, 4 games in a week, football you could only play 1 game per week. But the Rio Rancho Public Schools finished ranked first and second in the Max Preps poll, and that is what we go by. Cleveland finished undefeated and ranked number 1, and in the culminating event that was held at UNM Stadium, defeated Las Cruces High School 56-7. And Rio Rancho High School, who finished 4-1 in their culminating event at the Wool Bowl, defeated Roswell Goddard 38-22. And then not to be outdone in the other 2 sports, our Rio Rancho girls soccer team under an original coach from Rio Rancho High School, Uva Balsis, finished as a state semifinalist, and our first-year head coach, Charity Saavedra Gomez, our Cleveland volleyball team, was also a semifinalist. I failed to mention our head football coaches, Heath Ridenauer at Cleveland. This would have been his 4th state championship at Cleveland High School, and coach Jerry Pannoni, first-year head coach at Rio Rancho High School. As you can see, the Rio Rancho Public School District was well represented in athletics for the fall seasons. We now have the winter and spring seasons going on at the same time, and we're hoping that our success continues throughout these 2 seasons. We now stand for any questions or comments from members of the school board. I turn it back to you, Madam President Galbraith.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chavez. And before we go over to the board, I'd just like to let Dr. Cleveland have a moment to say a couple words if she'd like.
I absolutely do want to say a few words. This was a really difficult year, and we just had to fight and fight to even get the opportunity to play. But I will have to tell you honestly, among my superintendent colleagues, we're not very popular right now because Rio Rancho took home so many of the titles this year. But I just want you to know how very proud the community, the school district is for you. And we know that a tremendous amount of time and effort had to go into this season under the most challenging of circumstances. And yet, good things happened for students. Good opportunities were there for our players to be able to play and participate and be part of a team. And so, again, on behalf of the district, we congratulate each one of you. We really thank you for all of that time and effort. And we know what a valuable, important role you play in the lives of our students every day. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. Excuse me. Speaking of running, I ran today and I've had a hard time speaking all day with all the wind outside. And we're going to go ahead and go over to Catherine Cullen and let her go ahead and say a few words.
Thank you. And I know it's been a very challenging year for all of you and as well as the athletes. And my husband and I usually try to go out and see some games. We were able to go see the Rio Rancho Cleveland High School football game this year, but we certainly have missed being able to go out throughout the whole year. And we really appreciate all of you for what you have done. Again, it's extremely challenging, and you have overcome all those challenges and just shows your dedication to our students, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Cullen. We'll go ahead and go over to Win Coleman.
Just congratulations on everything, and I wanted to just say what I've just observed during this time is just how much of an advocate Larry Chavez has been for our students, how he has stayed consistently calm, and through all of the changes and just trying to figure out kind of how things were going to play out literally and figuratively. And just I appreciated so much his just kind of sharing where things stood at this point and knowing that just the support that we have for our students. So thank you so much, and again, congratulations.
Thank you, Win. And then Vice President Morgan.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for all you do for our young men and young women. I really appreciate this. I just got one question. The fact that Cleveland won the state football championship in 2019 and they maintained it in 2020 and they finished undefeated, does that consider them to be a 3-year? Is that like a 3-year championship? I mean, I know it's not official, but I like to be able to brag about that. Is what I like to do. So that's the reason why I'm asking.
I would say yes to that.
I will allow
Absolutely.
Heath to answer that one.
Okay then. I know Scott says it. Scott makes a big deal out of every time I talk to him. He said it's a three-peat, so I'm like, okay.
My answer to that is the kids went through everything that they had to do, and they played at the level that they played at, and they deserve to call themselves champions at the end of the day. So for those kids, they deserve it.
Good enough for me. Thank you so much. That's all I have. And again, congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, Vice President Morgan. And Noreen Scott, you're still on, I believe. You want to say something? If I'm not sure if you're in a place where you can.
Hi. Yes, I am here, and I just want to say thank you. It's been a heck of a year, and really, really grateful for everybody pulling together. And it's really something to be proud of. Thank you so much.
Okay, and I'm going to finish us up by just congratulations and thank you so much. Everyone knows that I get always emotional about this, but I'm so grateful for our coaches. All of our kids, they need to have a thing, and for a lot of our kids, sports is their thing, and it's the thing that kept them like together as we went through COVID this year. And I saw that firsthand as a mom, and I saw it also with their coach, who's on, who I know is Coach G. But what I saw was the love that he had for his athletes, and I know that you all have such love for your athletes, and that's what got them through this year. It's been rough. So by them still being able to have that their thing as they went through COVID this year, is I think why we really won so much is that you were all strong and you were committed to them and you showed that love for them. And they were able to, everything, I just keep seeing the great showings that we are making, all the championships you went through and also what we're doing currently right now. I was just at the track meet and just amazing performances by Cleveland and by Rancho High School. And so I just want to say once again, thank you for loving our students. A parent was just telling me the other day that's really the biggest thing is that these students need to feel loved. And maybe I'm talking to a bunch of like rough men, I know, but truly, like we see the love that you have for those kids and they feel it. And so thank you for helping them to get through this time, and thank you for everything that you've done. We appreciate it. If there's anything that anyone wants to say, I would love to hear from you. If you would like to, you are welcome to. But and Larry, do you want any wrap up from you, Larry?
Well, Madam President Galbraith, I just think we have a tremendous coaching staff at both schools, and the leadership with Vince and Matt helps guide these gentlemen and ladies throughout, and it's really great to see what they've done of competition, and it's I mean I had the greatest honor, and I had never done it before, of handing out the state championship medals to the soccer team and the head coaching staff. And I thank Chris Kedge for allowing me to do that, because I thought that was pretty special to be able to hand that out. I know Dr. Cleveland did that back in 2007 when she won the championship in boys basketball, and that's an honor, and that's a special place in our hearts when we can see our kids as happy as they are, and the coaching staffs. And I just say we have a tremendous staff at both schools, and I think that's why we're so successful.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I know some of you guys are still at school and some of you are still coaching right now and some of you just got home. So we appreciate you getting on tonight. And thank you again for all that you do for our kids. All right. It is. Okay. Oh, it's nice to have all these wonderful people on. Okay, we'll move on to our reports. And so for our first report tonight, we have the Sandoval Regional Health Collaborative here to update us on the 10 by 10 project. Richard Draper and, oh, Allison, I'm going to say your name so wrong. I had it written on my other. I believe it's you're going to have to help me out, Kozliski. I don't know if you're muted. We cannot hear you, but she's gonna have to correct me as soon as she comes on. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll go ahead and turn that time over to you. And if you need help with your mic, we'll give you a second too to make sure that that's gonna work okay.
Richard, are you unmuted?
Yeah, I can talk. I don't know if you can hear me, but
Yes, we can.
All right, let me while Allison, and it's Kozliski.
Kozliski. I did have it down before I got here.
Yeah, well, good for you. You get an A, because it's the first shot. Most people do get it wrong. Allison's been our chair for the last couple of years. She's done everything in health at every hospital system in the state. And has been a wonderful chair for us. I hope she regains her voice via the mic here. Allison, have you still found the mic?
Let me see if I can troubleshoot with her really
quick. One more time, and then I can cover her stuff.
Okay.
If she can.
Okay, and I see, is Peggy with you as well? Peggy
Yes.
Davis, who's on.
Yes.
Hi, welcome, Peggy Davis. Nice to have you on. Allison, let's troubleshoot with you just for a second, and maybe I'll have Tyler. I don't know if Tyler's still in here. Let's see here. Try talking real quick. You might have to. I'm so much better with Zoom than I am with Google Meets.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get Tyler back.
Okay. Let me.
Yeah, and our group uses Zoom a lot, and I think that's a different format.
It is. I'm just looking at it here on my screen really fast. Yeah, I see she has her hand up. So if you go into Allison, if you go to those three little dots on the right-hand side, and then click on settings, that's all the way at the bottom on the screen there. And then it's going to show you where your microphone is coming through. And so just maybe make sure if there's a drop-down menu there too. Maybe you've already done all this. Oh, and I'm doing all sorts of weird stuff on mine. Okay. If that is not working, if it's, oh, wait, I think we can hear you. Go ahead and say something, Allison, real quick.
Can you hear me?
We can. Yep.
Yay.
Okay, it's all you.
All right. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can see you and hear you. You're
Great.
good to go.
I see everyone. I just don't see myself. Thank you so much. It's just a pleasure and an honor to be with you and to talk with you about an update on our Sandoval Health Collaborative Children and Family and Community Health Ambassadors. As we've talked about a lot in the past, we look at improving population health. And do we have the next slide? How does that work? There we go. And with our focus, we started with children. What we have seen with data and in the past, when you look at population health, it's a little bit different than public health. And what population health really does is look at getting people together that are multidisciplinary and in different areas, whether it be education, safety, healthcare, the business community, to get everyone together to look at those pieces that are causing issues with good, healthy communities, not only children, but the whole community, wherever they are, in every single part of our county. So it's a pleasure to be able to say that we have as a partner Rio Rancho Public Schools. And we do that a lot with pride. And I can say that from my brothers are huge. Just listening to you talking about your athletics, my brothers were in athletics, they're educators. And anyway, it's just great to be here. Thanks. I'm kind of like the Madam Chair who's very excited about this system. And I think you have real cause to be, and I really thank you for partnering with us. So one of the things we've done, Richard's going to get more into the booklet that we do and the online things, but we really do look at the data, countywide and national trends. We look at rising child and adolescent obesity, diabetes, substance abuse issues, and behavioral health. And I think those last two are really one of the big foci, that we're looking at to try and see what is it that there is that we can make a difference, and how do we make a difference with our partners. So we developed this campaign, the 10 by 10 campaign, and we decided to use the child, because we've learned from previous prevention campaigns. If all of you are old enough to remember even Ralph Nader, when he did the seatbelt use. Seatbelts really didn't start happening until the kids said they wouldn't let their parents start the car unless the seatbelts were done. Those were the kinds of things we looked at. We looked at some of that data. We looked at that influence on adult behavior, such as anti-smoking, the seatbelt use, the environment, like don't throw your trash out the window, mom, dad, that's litter. And a lot of things that they do, they learn that in school, or they learn that in some other arena that helps, and as well as with substance abuse. So that's why we started with children as being ambassadors to their family, whatever that family may be. And we engage those children to have a key role. We give them the opportunity. We try to give them the information, the knowledge, and the confidence to talk about that with their parents, with their siblings, and to really have a key role in helping us prevent not only preventable diseases, but looking at how we can really focus on behavioral health. And it's not what we think we need, but it's what the community, the children, and the families think they need. And then start to look at what we can do as partners to help solve the problems for future generations. That's my part. Thank you.
Okay, Allison, thank you. My part is just to kind of drill down a little bit into what 10 by 10 is. Some of you may have seen the booklets in person. Some of you may have heard the program. Others may not have heard it at all. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to what is it? How deep have we extended in Rio Rancho schools? And again, our thanks, school board and Dr. Cleveland, for giving us a few minutes today to talk about our partnership. So the booklet is this. I'll hold it up. You can see it on the screen as well. It's 10 things that every child should know by the age of 10 about their health. And they're really common sense things that apply lifelong, from nutrition and physical activity to mindfulness and behavioral health, public safety, and reading and growing and learning. So not much controversy about the messages. It's a question of how you engage children in those messages most effectively. So what we've done is develop a booklet, as Allison said, with the help of a community team. And Joe Sanchez, your director of nursing, was one of the early members of that team, did a great job, gave a lot of her time. Janice Chenault, I'll talk about Beth Pendergrass, our board member, as well as your wonderful communications and strategy officer. Can't say enough about her. So what we did was to turn all our learnings into a two-part book. Half the book is aimed at the children, these 10 messages. You flip the book over, and then it's a parent's health resource guide. It's customized to Sandoval County, so there's all kinds of phone numbers, addresses, lists of low or free healthcare services, as well as basic emergency services. And this applies in tribal communities in Sandoval County, Rio Rancho, Cuba, rural areas as well. It's a great tool in just 6 pages. And then tips on what's an appropriate use of the emergency room versus urgent care versus just a local clinic. So we're hoping that the students, when they graduate as ambassadors after they've been taught the 10 lessons and hopefully adopted them, that, as Allison said, they go home and then share their enthusiasm and their learnings with their parents. And then together, they both adopt, or at least talk about more at the table, these lifelong health practices. We rolled the booklet out in Rio Rancho schools in 2017, the hard copy, first grade edition. We're now up through 4 grades in the hard copy edition. The goal is 1 more, 5th grade, and then we'll have books 1st through 5th grade, basically 7 through 10-year-olds, which our research showed are the most impressionable at these messages before sometimes we lose their attention at middle school and high school and on these and other things. So we had great support. Beth Pendergrass, by the way, on your team, developed the graphics and the visuals, which we always get compliments on those. Dr. Laura Burton at the UNM Health Sciences campus did the content, rolling up all the feedback from our teams. So we've rolled out those books, distributing thousands of those books through Rio Rancho schools since 2017. We had feedback from PE coaches, teachers, principals, students by way of surveys. One of the requests was, please do an online version. So with the help of the CNM Digital Media Lab this winter, we did exactly that. And happily at that point in time, we really got to know Shelley Havel with your SAFE program, who was a big booster of 10 by 10 and thought the after school SAFE program would be a great forum. There's a little more time, a little more flexibility in the schedules of those programs. They cover all 11 of your elementary schools. So with her help this spring, it's complicated obviously by the COVID protocols, but we're rolling out the online version along with the hard copies. And we hope that what we can do with your help is to find a way to get a little more immersion into the classroom. We're very aware because we've met with the teachers and principals, and Dr. Cleveland and Beth and everybody's made the staff available to reach out. And we realize how busy teachers are, how tight the classroom schedules are. And we are fully embracing this idea of the after school program, but after school 10 by 10 doesn't reach all the 1st through 4th or 5th graders. And the only other way to reach them is in the classroom. So recognizing again how up against the wall so many teachers are with their limited curriculum time, is there a way we can identify kids who aren't in the after school programs, who aren't going to get exposure through that vehicle, to reach them in the classrooms? So we're hoping we can expand and extend with your help the program deeper into the schools. The booklets are free, thanks to the Presbyterian Center for Community Health, the Sandoval Health Council, the Department of Health, and great business leaders like Julian Garza, who contributed dollars to make these books and these resources free. So I think that's my overview of the booklets, and I want to introduce Peggy Davis Osterfoss, who is a consultant for Sandoval County. She authored the 2016 Health Needs Assessment for Sandoval County that certainly included Rio Rancho. Did the update in 2018. She's been a consultant for us on the 10 by 10 project and analyzing the metrics and the data coming back from our customers. So with that, Peggy, it's your turn.
Thank you all very much for taking some time to listen to this update and this report. The reason that I am here is to, I think, share my respect for the importance of school-based education and to point out that this is far from, as you already know, far from a feel-good program. We have a very substantial amount of data here in New Mexico that points to the importance of it. Just to mention briefly, starting in 2017, New Mexico joined 3 other states in being one of the top 4 in terms of a high rate of and an increasing rate of preventable illness. Then, of course, on top of that, we've had our last year of experience with COVID and the awareness that has come through that particularly those with comorbidities, and very specifically those with obesity, have about a 3 times greater chance of hospitalization than anyone else. And this would cross all age groups. So taking a look at that kind of information, and of course, there's a lot more of that information available. And then also looking at, I think, a great report that the state of New Mexico Department of Health does, the Risk and Resiliency report. Looking back at the 2019 report, we can review the fact that right in Sandoval County, at least at the high school level, we were looking at, for example, a very small percentage of students eating breakfast, a very high percentage of students, greater than 50%, having more than one high sugar soft drink per day, only about 15% able to report that they had 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. One of the ones that I feel strongly about is the activity level. You know, the CDC now recommends an hour of vigorous activity for everyone starting at age 6. Of course, that includes all of us as well, but that includes all of our students. And the number of who actually say that they receive that they participate in that amount of vigorous activity is about 21% for young ladies and 39% for young men. So, for example, that's an area in which we see that there's definitely room for improvement. So, given that sort of background, the potential for partnership with a program like this is really very tremendous, because what we're doing at this point is sharing information. We're doing an evaluation to try to assess the extent to which students, and hopefully some transmitted to their families, are absorbing information. But we have the potential for looking for outcomes, especially through partnership with the schools in terms of journaling, from what are we doing in PE that really resulted in that hour of vigorous activity every day? What are we journaling from? What are we eating at school that help to meet the requirements that the CDC the recommendations that the CDC is making in regard to eating? So tremendous potential, partnership with the school district, partnership with Kids Cook, lots of opportunities for moving from presenting information, and I think the online is a very interactive way that's probably going to be very effective, but moving from just presenting information to actual implementation, which hopefully leads to some behavior changes. So those are my thoughts, and to me, COVID has just underscored this up one side and down the other, if we didn't already have it in mind. So to that extent, it creates an opportunity for us. And thank you very much for listening. I'd be happy to answer any questions should anyone have one.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Are we ready for questions for all three, or okay? All right, sounds great. All right, I'll go ahead and start with Dr. Cleveland. Just let her, if she wants to add anything, and then we'll go over to the Board of Education.
Okay. Well, you know, this has been a several-year partnership, and it's worked really well, and we appreciate your role trying to help our community, and particularly our children, be more healthy. We know that it's a package deal for kids. It's the physical, it's the social, emotional, and it's the academic. And those three have to be in balance for students to be able to do their very best. And so this helps promote that healthy balance, and really appreciate the time and effort you put into it. I saw a New York Times article not too long ago that said the average American gained 2 pounds a month during the pandemic, and that children gained even more. And so it may not be a club we all want to be part of, but there's plenty of company out there. And so now I think as we get back to a greater degree of normalcy, this also has to be one of the areas that we really look at. And then my last comment is, we're so appreciative over the years of being able to maintain our PE programs, but we need more, and children need more physical activity than what we're able to provide right now. And that's a goal, I think, that we have for the future, to be able to expand those programs. But thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. It certainly is on our radar screen, and And we do know that it's an area we need to continue to work toward. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. So I'm just going to go through the board real quick and see if anyone has any questions or comments to make. We'll start with Vice President Morgan.
Yeah, again, thanks for all the work that you guys do. Really appreciate that. This is very important. I do have one question. Mr. Richard, you may have mentioned, but how many books are out? You say it's up to the 4th grade now?
Right. Right, Mr. Morgan. We have 1st through 4th, and then we'll hope to wrap it up next year, the series with the 5th grade.
So how many books do we have out right
We
now?
probably have Rio Rancho schools, and I'm going to round up the number. I would imagine since 2017, we've probably given Rio Rancho schools over 5,000 books.
Wow.
Many of those have been returned. I mean, they aren't all used, but we've provided about 5,000. And now this new interactive online version, which is, as Peggy said, incorporates a kid's cooking element. It's interactive. There are quizzes. It's really engaging. And so we're hoping that maybe classroom teachers, if we give them the links, it's less cumbersome than the books. You've got the Chromebook program, smart boards, you've got the tools, and maybe that'll raise the adoption rate in the classroom as well as after school.
Very good job. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Very impressive. Wow.
Thanks, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you. All right, Secretary Scott.
Yes, I would really like to thank you all. I've followed this program from its inception. I'm really thrilled that you all are here today to present. Richard, I really appreciate the books that have been distributed, and I'd love to know the link. I think maybe some of our folks out here would enjoy getting on the link and learning a little bit.
Yeah, if you members want the link, I'll send it to Beth, and I'm sure she can get it to you.
That would be super. I'd really enjoy that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Noreen.
Okay, and then Catherine Collin.
Yes, thank you. I'm familiar with this program. I've been on here for a while, so and I think it is a great program, and I like to hear that now that it's going to be online as well for them. And I know that you're saying it's after school, and I'm trying to recall, and Beth would have to go back in my memory, maybe Pendergrass. Did Cuesta have an event at one time for this? For some reason, I think some schools were really implementing it and getting the word out to the little ones. So certainly this is something that we can look at, it's to implement this more like in the PE program, like Dr. Cleveland was talking. I mean, I'm definitely one that has definitely gained some weight during COVID. So I probably need to go online and read some more things. So I really appreciate all that you do. And I see Beth came on. So am I correct in that my memory serves me? It's been a few years back.
We did. We had selected a couple schools to kind of highlight and run the program in a different way to see if we could get more engagement. And so a couple schools had assemblies around it, special guest speakers. Richard can add to that. But yeah, we did try and make it a big deal at a few of the schools just to kind of see if we could get it adopted a little bit more.
And again, just kudos back to Beth too. She's just been instrumental and so helpful through all of this, and through her own challenges. She hasn't wavered. She's been terrific. So Beth, thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, and I'll let the other board members speak.
Okay. And Wynn Coleman.
Thank you so much for presenting. And I had the privilege of sitting down with Richard Draper and Beth when a couple of years ago and just kind of learning more about it. So I had a couple of questions. When it comes to what you choose to focus on in this curriculum, what are you looking at to drive your decisions? What research? I know you mentioned the Youth Risk and Resiliency survey. What other things are you using?
Well, I think that one of the most important things to review, because they are updated, are CDC guidelines. That is really a broad perspective. And then the New Mexico Department of Health, as you all may be aware, has additional guidelines and specifics. And I think we've tried to take a look at the fact that if you're going to build a continuum, there are some key components. And I think as you can tell, we keep coming back to the nutrition. I mean, what we eat is 80% of our overall physical health and weight, certainly. The 20% of exercise, which, as you know, educationally, numerous studies have shown is important in terms of maximizing student performance. And then the mindfulness, I think, has become increasingly important in terms of self-awareness and awareness of how one relates to the other. And all of this comes from existing data from the CDC. Also, you know, one of the things that's been very useful has been the needs assessment for Sandoval County, the health needs assessment, because that every 2 years has been something that Presbyterian, you know, is required pretty much to do to maintain their tax, their nonprofit status. But that gives us an opportunity to take a look at what's important in the county in terms of health needs and to what extent are they being met. And so, of course, in the 2 times that I've been involved, we've come back to the fact that trying to get started in working with students, with kids at a younger age is critical, because by the time you get to be 20 or even 30, especially 30 or 40 or beyond, behavior change is challenging. And it's very multifaceted, you know, with cultural factors that are very important to us in New Mexico. How do we send a message that folks will listen to? And we really are very, very thorough, I think, about making it data-based and looking at modifying it and updating it and continuing to focus it. Your feedback from other board members would really be of interest to me, I think to all of us, in terms of what you see as strengths or potential gaps.
Good. And thank you, Peggy. So you touched on something, and I'm just wondering now, I saw in the presentation that there were different booklets in different languages. So how many different languages do you have this in?
Let me answer that, Ms. Coleman. So the adult section is in Spanish and English, just those 2. It was the Boys and Girls Club, so we work with them here in Rio Rancho as well in Albuquerque, and it was on their request and others, and some of the feedback we got from Rio Rancho was to do an adult version, but we didn't hear a mandate to do a student version in Spanish. And so right now it's just the adult section English, Spanish, and the rest is all English. Now, open to if there are other languages that we need to incorporate. Department of Health has been very good at offering translation help, so we're open to your suggestions if we need to augment.
And I can't help but think that there probably are students that are in a position where English is a second language for them, and one that they might just really be developing, especially at these young ages. But I also, I think the one thing that really comes to mind too is I just wonder about the opportunities to present this and the support to our Native American community. So
we do have, just quickly on that. So there is a nutritionist from the Navajo Nation that has been advising us from Pueblo perspective. We work pretty directly with Santa Ana Pueblo, most closely, Cochiti, San Felipe. So we've made a real effort to try to one-on-one with all the Pueblos in the county, Jemez Valley and Jemez Valley schools. So we're mindful of getting their input into the content. And the icons and some of the imagery that Beth has used, as you'll see, have cultural relevance and across all of our populations here. So we're sensitive to it. I can't say we're 100%. We got it down. We're always looking for improvement.
Now, and I know, and I appreciate that, and appreciate the openness. It's just that things that, as I have become more involved, that are kind of top of mind for me when it comes to the gift that our state has with the cultural diversity. So, but thank you for just continuing your work in this.
Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to add, just again, a thank you for everything, and I'm grateful for this this update. I didn't know as much as I would have liked, and so I had an opportunity to kind of go through some things today and learn more about it, and and it looks like you're heading right towards your goal. I know you're just saying that you're hoping to get into the 5th grade, and I know that your goal, I think, was to hit that right around this time. And so it looks like you're moving ahead with your goals. And so we appreciate all of your help with our schools. I have a niece, I think, who went through Puesta, and I remember her going through some of these things over at Puesta, and it's definitely a time and where they do receive all those impressions better so than when they hit those middle school years. And so it's the perfect time to help our students to develop really good habits. And so thank you again for coming tonight and presenting this update for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
I
Thank
was
you
going
all.
to ask real quick. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Would
Sorry.
you be able to get us the board copies of the booklet?
You bet.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Richard.
You bet, and the links too. I'll make sure Beth gets those, and you bet. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
And if I might make one comment, I
Please.
can't resist saying that I think this does relate to the wellness program. The district has a wellness program. And of course, the state has health standards and benchmarks. And I think this could just be another tool for reinforcing that whole opportunity within the existing contents of that framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Catherine, did I miss you on that one, or did I'm like suddenly with you? Okay. I talked earlier. Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. I just wanted to all of a sudden I'm like, wait. All right. Thank you. Thank you again for that update. We appreciate it. Okay, for our next is going to be an update on our virtual school enrollment. And we have Janice Chenault and Renee Salcedo, our school improvement officers, who are on to present.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Dr. Cleveland. This will be a very, very brief update. We just wanted to let you know where we sit today with current interest in our 2 virtual programs. And this is for elementary. We have received a couple more applications since we updated this, but this is where we sit right now as far as interest. Originally, we had told you 571 were interested, but as of this time, we have around 236 that have actually completed the application that we could send transfer forms to. And kindergarten, we assume, is small because a lot of our families may just be coming into the district for the first time and may not be aware. And we have 21 teachers that have applied for transfers to teach at Spark. So as we start putting everything together, we'll come back to the board and share more specific details with you.
And at secondary, we currently have 122 applications. Our parent university is scheduled for tomorrow night. So we're expecting more after that. As of right now, at Cyber Academy, they're offering 2 virtual options. One is blended where you will go in person for a couple of days a week and then the rest of the time work on Edgenuity. And the other is 100% virtual. So any blended learning will be on Google Meets. And 80% of the families are requesting the 100% virtual. We have 66 students in middle school who have requested virtual and 57 in high school. And you'll note these are the grades that they're currently in. So that's why 5th graders are listed under middle school. And it is really short. And so we will stand for questions now.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for that update. I mean, this is a pretty quick turnaround on all these things. And so we appreciate you coming out tonight and giving it. And honestly, like, it's kind of nice to have kind of a slow movement. It's kind of going into it. I think that would be a good thing. But I have a feeling that these numbers are gonna grow. So, all right. Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add anything before I go to the board?
No, they covered it. They covered it fine.
Okay, perfect. All right. So we can go ahead and start. We'll start with Vice President Morgan.
No questions, but thanks for the quick turnaround. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Secretary Scott.
I have no questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. And Catherine Cullen.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. And Wynn Coleman.
Thank you. No questions.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Just keep us updated. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for the report tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. For our next report will be something new that we are trying, and we're grateful for our superintendent to be doing this for us tonight, is our state of the district. And so I'll hand it over to Dr. Visu Cleveland, our superintendent.
Okay, thank you so much. And this is our first try at this. And so my understanding is in talking with President Galbraith is we would go through the address and then on the documentation of the support materials, we just hit the highlights. So that's what we're going to do this evening. And so as we get started, this is really kind of looking in the rearview mirror and then looking ahead. You know, I thought about if we had done it at the beginning of this school year, probably every single thing that I had told you would have been wrong, because we really had no idea what this year was going to look like. And so as we kind of worked through it, we learned a lot. And so probably the timing is a good timing. So we look back and see the things that we have been able to do over the year, and then looking toward the very next school year. So Beth, are we ready with all right. So I'd like to start with, you know, in just a really, here we go. All right. In just a few short weeks, the 2020-2021 school year will end. Before we breathe a sigh of relief that this year is over and begin to undertake our planning for the next year, it is fitting that we reflect on how far we've come and where we are headed as a district. First, I would really like to commend our board, our staff, students, parents, and community for the dedication, hard work, and care that you demonstrated during the pandemic. We pulled together to make the best of difficult and unprecedented times. Our community partners, as well as the Rio Rancho Schools Employee Union, joined us in collaborative efforts to solve the problems that emerge daily, sometimes hourly. It was a never-ending challenge to balance the wants and needs of a divided community with the requirements to comply with the requirements of the public health orders. To engage our external stakeholders, the Rio Rancho Public School District strengthened its communication with legislators, key state education officials, community leaders, and others to advocate for the needs of our students and staff. We continue to advocate for sustainable funding for our schools. Our district continues to struggle to provide staffing and program enhancements, which would enable us to move our student performance ahead more rapidly. Expanding community and parent engagement became critical during the COVID-19 health emergency. One of our effective tools for distributing information and obtaining feedback this year was Parent University. And as you heard, we're going to have a Parent University session tomorrow evening. If you missed any of those, all is not lost. We've kept all of them. And so they're all on our website, and you can go back and look at them anytime you would like to do so. We never took our sights off the strategic goals of building staff capacity, striving to maintain student achievement. All of a sudden, my screen went blank. Okay. Expanding community and parent engagement became critical during the COVID-19 health emergency. And as I said, one of our effective tools for distributing information was Parent University. We never took our sights off the strategic goals of building staff capacity, striving to maintain student achievement at college and career readiness, managing resources despite unexpected obstacles, and addressing significant costs that were generated by the pandemic. But you know, in spite of it all, the district focused on what matters most, continuing to provide opportunities for student learning, albeit in somewhat different ways. The district saw challenges as opportunities to grow and learn, especially with regards to virtual and hybrid learning. We are far stronger in educational technology and technology infrastructure than we were prior to the pandemic. The IT department has provided tremendous support this year to staff and students, as they always have, but this year also to families. The new Shining Stars campus opened this year, and it is a wonderful facility for young children. It became a model for early childhood education in New Mexico and beyond. Joe Harris Elementary opened as an exciting new elementary and also became the hub of our elementary level virtual offerings. Would add that school was named for a community hero. Other new student initiatives included expanding food services to virtual students, offering online counseling services, expanding health services, keeping our electives and activities viable, and providing tutoring for students, to name just a few of the initiatives. Quality staff is essential to achieving quality schools. We took a step forward in improving staffing capacity by initiating a teacher intern program. Our interns provided much needed frontline assistance for in-person learning. They participated in a unique experience that allowed them to observe and teach in classrooms at every school. They had a chance to work directly with many experienced teachers, which has prepared them to take over their own classrooms either this year or next fall. As we look forward to next year, we are hopeful and we long for a more stable school year, although this may be a new normal. There are several enhancements coming next year. Rio Rancho Public Schools will offer a virtual elementary program, Spark, that you've heard about, and expand our secondary distance learning programs for students who want to remain in a virtual or a blended environment. The district will open a new student support center designated to assist secondary students who are facing major challenges in their lives. The purpose is to provide additional supports while allowing students to continue their coursework. Rio Rancho Public Schools will once again offer 5th grade band and orchestra as requested by parents and community members. The district is expanding its partnership with CNM to offer more CTE opportunities for high school students. The Rio Rancho Public School District will continue to move forward with modernizing the district's HVAC systems to increase the comfort and safety for our staff and students. It is important to note that in order to accomplish this, there will be some major disruptions at school sites that are receiving these new HVAC systems. But on the other hand, it will be wonderful when that work is finally completed. And finally, I would like a word of thanks to go to the Rio Rancho Public Schools team. Surviving this year is a reflection of their dedication, perseverance, and collaboration of staff. On so many different occasions, it would have been easy to have thrown in the towel, but that did not happen. In ways large and small, each staff member has made an incredible difference for kids this year. Their efforts and commitments are truly valued. And for those who are retiring after serving this district for many years, I wish them the best. They have contributed immensely to the success of our district. To our community, RRPS will continue to focus on continuous improvement and find ways to leverage our assets. That's people, time, dollars, and relationships in order to ignite student potential. Ensuring a successful future for all students is powerful and impactful work. And despite the constraints and challenges faced throughout the pandemic, Rio Rancho Public Schools will continue its commitment to maintain a strong school district of which our community is justifiably proud. With sincere thanks. Okay, and I'm going now to the support documentation that is attached to the address that is part of our State of the District plan. And I'm just going to hit a few highlights as we go through this. And you have all of the backup information for the community. All of this will be on the website. So if you have any interest in any part of this, you'll find it there. And again, thank you for all of your support. And included in the State of the District is our profile, our demographic profile. And you can see we are a rather diverse district. One of the things that I would point out is that we have a very high percentage of children who receive special education services. Many of them were quite severe. And so a lot of effort goes into that. On the other hand, we have fewer English language learners than most districts in New Mexico. And sometimes that accounts for our low at-risk dollars that we receive. On our budget, you'll see our budget coming from the state is $153,526,312 dollars. And just to summarize the budget really quickly, and you've heard a lot from Arlene Manzanares and Michael Baker, I just want to kind of summarize for the community. Our enrollment is down. And so because our enrollment is down, our dollars were down for the SEG. On the other hand, the state did add some additional funding. So that helped it go back up. And that's what the state is calling a hold harmless. It was not a hold harmless as districts envisioned it, because how districts envisioned it was a hold harmless in terms of last year's budget, adding in the new fixed costs. And so while it fixed the first part of it, there was not an increase for fixed costs that went up. And so we have more, we have to put in more into retirement. We have to put more into health benefits. We have a pay increase, which is a really good thing to be able to provide staff to cover some of those increases. But the bottom line is that with those fixed cost changes, we're over $3 million. So it did not balance out evenly. And we're continuing to work on how to make that work. One of the things, though, that may, and we're really hoping and anticipating will happen, is a lot of our students will come back. And I want to talk with you a little bit about that a little later on, but we are very optimistic that we will build this budget back up as we get some of our students back into the district. This is our graduation data for last year. And as you will see, there wasn't that much change in some bright spots last year. We stopped very late in the year and were able to pretty much recover for most of our graduates. This year is going to be more challenging because it's been a longer haul. There's more students that are behind. And we've got in this report all the ways we're helping students and want them to come back, and we have the tools if they will step up and work with us. But this is our breakdown on our graduation rates. They're considerably above the state numbers. And in fact, every single group we have, regardless of demographics, is above the state average. I want to talk just a little bit about commitments met and the things that we committed to do this year that we followed up on. And so I'll go through these very quickly. As you know, we've had a very strong commitment to safety and security, a very strong department. I really want to thank our executive director, Sal Maniaci, and all of the work that his team has done in a year that has been challenging to keep our students and staff as safe as possible. In IT, we mentioned this before, but this is just kind of summarizes it. 17,000 Chromebooks, 803 hotspots, 662 tickets. Many of those were for parents for the first time to help with at-home learning. And so IT has done everything they can to keep us afloat in a year when virtual education was important, as was in-person learning. As I mentioned earlier, we opened Joe Harris Elementary. We opened Shining Stars. Both of those are absolutely wonderful facilities. We are hoping at a later date to be able to open them to the community so that the community can see what their tax dollars built. And I think you will be very pleased when you see the buildings. They're just fabulous buildings. We have had recently folks come to Shining Stars, some of our PED staff, including a deputy secretary, and their comments were just so positive about how this building meets the needs of young children. And what we shared with them is that we need another one to be able to meet the needs of all of the children who would like that service in Rio Rancho. Unfortunately, we are not able to serve all of our students. Joe Harris, again, is a wonderful school, a lot of enhancements. It will house our virtual services as well for elementary, as well as functioning as an in-person elementary school. And so they will have a dual mission this year. But it's a fabulous school, the great staff, and It's been a hard year to open a new school, build a sense of community, build a sense of the neighborhood school. They have worked very hard to accomplish that goal. And then we have some smaller projects. For example, we talked about earlier, the Student Support Center that will provide extra support for some of our students in greatest need. And it's a nice environment, and that's hopefully a way that we'll be able to keep some of our students in school, meet their needs, and allow them to go home to their home school. We've done quite a bit of work this year on the Rio Rancho High School track and field concession and wall. That's been a long needed project, and it's been a long time in coming. And I know that's a wonderful addition to Rio Rancho High School. And then we have 2 new gym floors, one at Mountain View, one at Eagle Ridge, and those were the original floors that were in there. Buildings were built in the 2nd year of the district. So they've had a long life, and at the time they were not this kind of quality floor. And it's really nice to be able to put in those floors. We're also actually worked with a community business to sell some unneeded property. The money that we will gain out of that will go back into improving site improvements, particularly drainage improvements around Mountain View, which will be a good thing not only for the school, but that entire neighborhood. We have continued to move on in terms of our commitment to career technical education. And I love this graphic, but there are now lots of opportunities for our students. This has been a priority of the board, especially some of our board members who've been here for quite a while, and certainly a mission for Catherine Cullen and Wynn Coleman. But we've finally seen these programs built over time with strong support from the current board. So here are the opportunities that we have. I'm not going to go through those, but here are the things that we have to offer students today. We're in the process of continuing to add several new areas in a partnership with CNM, and we're working on perhaps a joint use facility in which we would partner with CNM and expand our offerings beyond those that we have right now. One of the programs that has worked so well for us is the automotive technology in partnership with Chalmers Ford. And we did have a student on Friday that the board did a commendation for and scored very high in a national assessment and certainly represented our district very well. During the COVID crisis, there probably has never been a time when we needed really strong communication. And Beth and her team really stepped up this year to make sure that everyone had the information that they needed. And you think you can't communicate too much, but I'll tell you, they gave them tremendous amount across the community information about what was happening in our schools. And so here are some of the things that were done this year. Again, I'm not going to read through all of those, but everyone had an opportunity to know what was happening in the school district if they wanted to have it. And so that has been a tremendous opportunity to reach out to the community. And I think it helped us through this really challenging time. We continue in our partnerships, and you heard one of those this evening. How important that the partnership has been with the Sandoval Health Collaborative. But we have a lot of partnerships. And again, during tough years, partnerships matter a lot. And so in the beginning of the year, we did have it, I'm sure you'll recall, we had 5 teams, task force, that looked at every aspect of reopening and presented a plan that we brought to the board. Those folks are meeting again as we wrap up the year to try to look back over what worked well, what didn't work so well, and what their recommendations would be for next year. We also continued our partnerships with community groups such as the Chamber. As you probably are aware, the Chamber of Commerce hosts a partners meeting monthly, and we participate in that and work with the city and the county and the Chamber of Commerce and the Sandoval Economic Alliance and other groups. We have continued our partnership with NAOP. They have been a wonderful partner in helping our schools in so many different ways. And many of us on the administrative team are represented on various boards and commissions. because we think being part of the community is an important way of giving back, and that we definitely need to be part of that. So those are listed for you, and again, it has been a really good way to balance our needs and to work together. The last one I would mention is, you've probably seen here, we'll continue that effort to work on the COVID testing. And we have a testing site here at the district office. We had one for a while at Rancho High. Continue to work with the Department of Health as we look at vaccinations in the future and testing in the short term. As I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of challenges, and the greatest one is in the area of enrollment, but we have some others as well. The enrollment is down approximately 900 students. We set out to find every one of those students. We looked to find where they had gone. We had an exit survey to send to the parents to say, tell us why you left. What is it that was the problem? What was the challenge? What could we do to do better? And a lot of them returned those, and we've had an opportunity to look at that. It is important that we get our students back. We want them back. We need them back. We found all but 11 of them, of the 900. And within this week, Tana Burgos has worked even more, and I think we're now down to only 4 that we don't know where they are. So there was tremendous effort that went into locating those students. And so basically the drop in membership was about 5%. And that was a loss of about $7 million, 6.9. So again, if we could get our students back, hopefully we'll recover some of that lost revenue. And, we certainly, as we put in enhancements, we've had to be very careful how we spend money so that we could support those enhancements. And we're still working right now on balancing the budget. The biggest challenge of all, and we've talked a lot with the board about this, is how do we assess learning loss? And we have some students that have held steady, that have not demonstrated significant loss at all. But we have had others who have had tremendous loss, and we've got to continue to work on helping those students get caught up. And so that's really the focus. And in order to help students get caught up, you also have to accelerate the learning. And so what does that look like? And how do you do that? And what are the approaches that we will do for getting our students caught up? I do want to talk just a minute, though, in hopes that folks are listening. We are trying to do so many things to try to get our students to graduate. And so we've shared those with you. The state has helped a lot. They're going to extend the graduation deadline to the end of July. And so that gives students really 2 more full months in which they can complete their graduation requirements. We do have a summer graduation. We will do that again, so you still have a chance to wear your cap and gown and to graduate. We have seen from the state also some demonstration of competency changes that have made it a little easier for some students to qualify for demonstration of competency options. The board did waive for this year only, moving down from 26 to 24 credits for those students who would need it and not graduate this year because of that. The state also allowed, and our district concurred with that for this year they would waive the Algebra 2 requirement. You still have to have the 4 years of math, but one of them does not have to be Algebra 2. It can be a technical math. It can be a college level math. There are several different ways that you can qualify for that credit. So there's another way for students who maybe Algebra 2 just wasn't your best subject, and yet you wanted to go ahead and finish, and we have options for you if you'll come back and work with us on it. And then of course this year we've always had a requirement for advanced placement or dual credit or distance education. Every student got to qualify for that this year. Everyone's had an opportunity to learn that. So that's another possibility for helping some students graduate. Edgenuity, there will be a boot camp that will help students get caught up if they need it. And last but not least, the fees for summer school are being waived this year in all the programs. And so there are ways to finish. And so we really encourage our students to stay the course and get through. A lot has been done in the area of social, emotional learning, and mental health. Much work is still to be done. It was very difficult to meet the needs of our families virtually and meet the needs of our students remotely. But efforts were made to do that. And we're really hopeful as we see more of our students coming back, be able to meet their needs in a better way than we have during the pandemic. But our district has really stepped up to try to accomplish that. And you can see some of the things that have been done there. I'm not going to go through all of those. We made contact with students, some over and over again, especially those that we knew were at highest risk and were really struggling to get through the pandemic. So Ripple Effects is an online support system we put in this year. And there were some bumps in that, and getting that customized to our district's needs, but we finally got that done, and there has been that support as well this year. I already mentioned in terms of staff recruitment, our efforts to recruit staff by way of the teacher intern program. We're really proud of that program and feel that it has been successful. We'll be continuing next year. We were hoping to expand it. We're not going to have the resources to expand it, but we will maintain it. And hopefully in the years ahead, we can expand it. Let me just give you a couple of examples of who they are. Some were recent college graduates that graduated late, some in December, didn't have jobs, really wanted to get into schools. We really wanted them. And so they were young folks wanting their break into education. We had some that were the opposite of that. We had folks who were mid-career, had done another career and wanted to change, and they thought this was a way to find out teaching really might be for them. We had one gentleman that was referred to us that had had a career as an educator in another state, but had been coaching most of that time, wanted to come back now into an academic classroom, wanted to learn what was happening in that area, and so has signed up to be part of this program. So lots of variety of people, lots of opportunities to reach out to fill our classrooms with people who really would like to teach. And so, and then we're of course increasing our efforts now to recruit. And the challenge is finding the few people that are out there. Our colleges of education have not seen an increase during the pandemic of folks graduating from the colleges of education. So we are going to have to think very creatively. And it's not just teachers. We're still short custodians. We're still short drivers. We're still short a lot of different job categories. And so want everyone to know we're open for business. We hope people will put their applications in. We'd really like you to come and be part of our district team. As I mentioned, we have been out looking for our students, recruiting our students, encouraging them to come back and communicating with their families. So briefly, what's on the horizon? We have one thing I really would like to bring to your attention. As you know, last year, we were planning to do our accreditation effort last year. And it just didn't work out, and it just didn't pull together. We had too many things going on. It was too much of a stress on principals and teachers. The remote environment that we found ourselves in just made it very problematic. And so the decision was made to move accreditation to this year. We're well underway with the accreditation effort. We are seeking to accreditate all of our schools in Rio Rancho with international accreditation. We had this request. We'd heard this from our business community. They saw this as a great plus for recruitment of new companies into Rio Rancho. But more importantly for us, it's a way to look at what we're doing and assess what we're doing and have an outside team look at our work and provide honest feedback to us. So it's the core of a continuous improvement effort. And we're excited about it this year. And a lot of it's self-reflection, as well as having a team look at the job you're doing and and as I said, give you honest feedback. One that was done a couple of years ago in one of our neighboring districts, which was Los Alamos, said it was one of the best things they had been through in many years. So we hope it will be a positive experience for our staff and our community. That means that we will, if the board approves, our recommendation to you will be to not enter into the strategic planning renewal this year. You really need to do your accreditation first and get all of that positive and continuous improvement feedback, and then build a strategic plan. So the proposal we'll be bringing to the board is let's get accreditation out of the way. Let's see how we do with that, and then build on that information next year for looking at a new strategic plan. We'll continue with the strategic plan we have. It's been a good plan. One more year if the board approves that. The let me see. There was one other, a couple of other things on the accreditation review. We'll have an external team, and they select very highly qualified people to come and be part of that process. And then you will also have an opportunity as board members to provide input to that process, and then the district will receive a report. So I just kind of wanted you to know what the deliverables look like for this accreditation visit. Thank you. And then next slide. Next. Okay. I want to just mention a couple of things. One, I mentioned earlier the partnership with CNM. We're looking at continuing to try to finalize that, and even discussing maybe the need to bring in a couple of additional partners to make that work. But we're hoping to offer our students more career technical opportunities, particularly in the skills traits, which is what we've heard a lot from our business community here that we need more of. The other is on extended learning year. The state talked a lot about that, and originally it was going to be mandatory, and then it came back and said, well, it's not exactly mandatory, but if you don't do this, then you have to tell us what you are going to do to make up the lost time. And so we asked, well, what is it that you would be looking at? And one of the things that a lot of the districts are doing is extending the school day. Well, extending the school day is not an option for Rio Rancho unless you want to start classes at the high school before 7 and have elementary children still in school 4:30, 4:45. Many of the other districts only run a single bus tier. And so for them, adding time to the day is not as problematic as it would be for a district like Rio Rancho or for the Albuquerque Public School District, where we're already running buses from early till late. The other would be weekend, some Saturday schools and some other things like that. We talked with our staff about that. There was not very much enthusiasm for that. And so it seemed like that was probably the more, this was the better way of being able to meet that goal. So the goal was remained, but there was some flexibility on how you might do it. But the two primary ways simply would work for Rio Rancho very well. We have several things that are coming in place in terms of mental health supports, and one is a new pilot program called Handle with Care. We're also implementing SHAPE, which is School Health Assessment Performance Evaluation System. And this is a public access web-based formula that we can utilize for this purpose. We're also training staff this year in the Youth Mental Health First Aid Program. So there are several new things on the horizon with regards to mental health supports coming up in next year. And then the very last comment is we really don't know much about it. We know there will be impacts on the cannabis maze as that unfolds. It will impact schools as well. And so that's something that we will be looking at and monitoring in the year ahead. Having spoken with some of my colleagues, superintendents in other states that have been down this road, they assure us that there is a lot of challenges that schools are going to face as a result of that. And so I just also want to keep that on your radar screen. So that's a really quick run through. but I at least hit a few points in every section. Are there any questions or comments? Are we ready?
Yeah, we'll go through the board. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland, so much for doing this. You know, it has been, I'll let her kind of rest as I'll talk for a second before we go into to questions. But it has been a really hard year to be able to put this together. And so we really appreciate you doing this. As we said at the beginning, it's just something new, doing this state of the district. But I'm really grateful that you were able to put it together. A lot of people in the community don't know Dr. Cleveland's been trying to put this together for months, really, but there's just been so many obstacles and so many changes. And like you said, if you had done this at the beginning of the year, everything would be completely different now. And so we're grateful that you were able to get it in, and we're grateful that we're starting to see a little bit. I mean, it's still changing always, but I feel like now that we have our students back in school, we're starting to just kind of get into a groove of things, and so hopefully we can continue with that. So with that, we'll go ahead and go over to the board and look for questions or any comments. We'll go ahead and start with Secretary Scott, if she would like to say anything.
Well, thank you. I thought that was a wonderful report. I'm really grateful for all the points that you hit. I'm especially grateful for how professional it looks, and I'm very grateful also to the entire staff that put that together. Really a fine report, and something I think we can use to benchmark against year after year. Thank you.
Could I just make one quick reply to that, and also to your comments, President Galbraith, that and I was going to say at the end, but I'll say it right now, since you raised the point. It definitely was a team effort, and every department had to pull their materials together and get it in. And then Beth does her magic and putting it into a wonderful professional looking format. And so it was definitely a team effort. And I wanted the board to be sure to be aware of that. So I'll jump in and say it now instead of at the end.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. Vice President Morgan.
Yeah, Dr. Cleveland, and again to your team, the guys that helped you put this together, fantastic job. A lot of information. Again, we'll take the time to go back and read through it all. So again, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time and really appreciate all the information that was put together. So thank you.
Okay. And Wynn Coleman.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland, and the team for putting this together. This was something that we had asked for, and I'm grateful that that we were able to get this presented to us. I had a question as far as the district profile, and when we're looking at the students with IEPs, how many are we waiting for? Do you know, as far as assessments? Still. So do we have an idea of kind of what is kind of in the queue in a sense?
I know that we are behind, and the pandemic has made it very hard to be current on some of our assessments. In some cases, it's the issues of staff, and in other cases, parents not wanting to bring their children in, or combination. And so we are behind. I do not know the numbers. If there's anyone from special services that is here that knows those numbers, please feel free to jump in, but I'll be glad to get that information for you. But I will tell you, we are, we have had to work very hard this year to get assessments done. The pandemic did not make that particularly easy to do.
Okay, thank you. And then thank you for addressing the mental health for our district and our students. And I think it's also really important to identify that the staff, really just making sure that administration and staff, deserve that attention. And so thanks.
I think the one thing we can count on is that we're going to have more mental health needs than we've had in a long time. And I think we all know that. And I think we're all looking how to meet that challenge. But it has been very hard on everybody. It's been really hard on some of our children. And so I think we know that we have a bigger battle and an uptick in the number of students who really need those services. So we will keep you posted on that. But again, thanks to all the folks that have worked on that as well. And a lot of thought has gone into how to meet this increased need. Tonnenberg in particular.
Yes, and before those were all my questions. I just wanted to, before we transition to one of the other board members, is anybody on that might know how many students are waiting to be assessed?
Jerry, I don't know if you're on or not. I haven't looked. Now, hold on a minute.
If not, if that's
no, but we'll get you that information.
Thank you.
I just do not know at all off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
And Catherine Collin?
Dr. Cleveland, thank you so much. I know that I'm one of the ones that talked to you a while back about doing the state of the district, and you did a great job. I mean, all the information that you pulled together with your team is just amazing work, and this really gives an idea for the public of where we were, where we're at now, and what the future is kind of holding for us. Well, of course, we never know because it's changing so quickly. But I really just want to say how much we appreciate it. And like Noreen said, it's kind of like the benchmark for years to come. So thank you.
And thanks again, and Dr. Cleveland, I would say, during this time, this pandemic time, there's been districts that have been highlighted all over the country and all over our state, and I've been watching them, and I just feel so grateful to be part of Rio Rancho Public Schools. Your leadership, like, you have pulled together an amazing team, and it is a team effort, but you've pulled those individuals together and have led them, and I'm grateful that you showed us both challenges that we have to overcome, but and all of the positive things that we have too. But I'm truly grateful to be part of Rio Rancho Public Schools during this time. So thank you so much for doing this tonight. Did you have anything else that you want to say, Dr. Cleveland, before we move on from this?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much and so that's going to be, as far as I know, right, this is all going to be available up on our Rio Rancho Public Schools webpage so that the public can have access to all those things. If we should I take okay, if we could, we're just going to take a quick 5-minute break and come right back after 5 minutes. If Kim would go ahead and put that on a timer for us, and we'll be back. We're just going to have a recess for 5 minutes.
This is your 2-minute warning. 2 minutes. One minute. 1 minute. Thirty seconds. Twelve, 11, 10, 9, 8.
All right, good evening. This meeting is now called back to order. And we'll move on to approve our consent agenda. Is there any discussion that anything need to be taken off the consent agenda to discuss? Okay.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay.
Here we go.
This is board.
Oh.
This is board member Jeff Morgan. I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Jeffrey Morgan. Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us?
Yes, ma'am. Vice President Morgan.
Yes.
Secretary Scott.
Yes.
Board Member Cullen. Board Member Coleman.
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
5-0.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, now moving into the business portion of our meeting tonight. We will start with our first item A, consideration of award of RFP number 2021-009-FAC Food Service Management. One, Mr. Michael Baker, I think you are feeding back.
Yeah, you need to have only one audio source in that room somehow.
So with that, we have Michael Baker, our Chief Operations Officer here, Arlene Manzanares, our Executive Director of Finance, and Michael Madrid, our Purchasing Director. And we'll hope that our audio is all going to work through this. We'll see. All right.
Thank you, Board President Galbraith, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Cleveland. This afternoon's presentation is going to be a joint presentation amongst the various committee members. It's requesting an award of RFP.
Mr. Madrid, wait, hold on 1 second. And Michael Baker, will you just go ahead and mute yourself while he talks, and then we'll come back. We'll see if that helps. Okay, go ahead.
Do you want me to start again?
Yes, please. That would be great.
Very good. This afternoon's presentation is going to be a joint effort amongst the various evaluation committee members. It's requesting award by the board for RFP number 2021-009-FIN for a food service management contractor. The scope of work is for food service management on behalf of Rio Rancho Public Schools and the administration of one or more USDA child nutrition programs. Responding to the solicitation, the district received 4. The responses were from Avians LLC, doing business as K-12 by Elior, Southwest Food Service Excellence, Sodexo America LLC, and TARE Inc. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Baker, and we have a PowerPoint presentation that will be presented to the board.
All right. Okay, President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the school board. This evening, we do have a presentation, and we plan on going into a little bit more detail in regard to this particular RFP because of its significance to our school district. Next slide, please. So the food service contract, as you are aware, is a significant part of Rio Rancho Public Schools. The annual cost is approximately $6.8 million. Rio Rancho Public Schools did publish an RFP on our current food service contract because it was up for renewal. As a result, a committee was formed in order to evaluate the submittals that Mr. Madrid recently, or just read the companies that submitted. But what I'd like to do is just spend a few minutes to go over the team that evaluated the RFP and the expert knowledge that was involved. So myself was on the team. Arlene Manzanares was on the team, and of course she is the executive director of finance. Michael Madrid, our chief procurement officer, director of purchasing, was on the team. Dean Gallegos, fairly new to the district. He is our director of food services. And just kind of a recap on Dean's experience. Dean has over 30 years of experience in food service. Arlene actually stole him from Bernalillo Public Schools, and we were very happy about that, where Dean was the director of food services there. Dean also served at the Las Cruces Public School and also has experience in the private sector as well. We also have Shelley Havel here with us as well, and Shelley is our director of student services. And we all learned very quickly that Shelley is also an expert on food tasting and brings, and you will hear her, she is very articulate about what food looks like and what food tastes like. And so Shelley was very important to the group as well. And then finally, our consultant, Nancy Cathy, who helped us through more than a year trying to better understand our food services contract and the way food is served to our students. But Nancy has extensive experience. She comes from us from Las Cruces Public Schools, where she was the executive director of food services in Las Cruces, over 24 years in public education. Nancy also has experience in public health, in child nutrition. And so, as you can see, the team has got a variety of experiences, but more importantly, expert knowledge in food services. And the reason why we did that is because food service not only is very important to our district, but also is highly specialized, and it is highly controlled by the government. So we have to make sure that we are in compliance at all times and that we're serving the best to our children. Before we go on, I do want to say that the team is taking a departure from our current contractor and is going to make a recommendation that SFE, Southwest Food Service Excellence, be awarded the food service contract for Rio Rancho Public School for the school year 2021 through 2022. Claudia, next slide, please. At this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to Nancy.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent. Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Let's try again. Now, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes, we can.
You're good.
Okay. Okay. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Cleveland, my name is Nancy Cathy, and I'm going to just give you some basic concepts about food service that kind of set the tone for us developing the RFP. So any school food service operation should have 3 goals. The very first one is support student learning by ensuring appropriate nutrition is available for all students. So that is the very first premise for everything that we considered. The second is you want it to operate in a self-supporting so that it's not a financial drain on the monies that are intended for the educational side of the district. And the last one, of course, is to maintain that we follow all the compliance regulations that are given to us by USDA and PED. So that's the main goal. So from that, then we wanted to drill down and get into more in the weeds with it to develop the RFP. So USDA requires that the item with the most weight is the financial component. So that we did that. And then beyond that, we started looking at what brings students in. How do we keep them there? How do we get them to eat the food? And so we wanted to look at the other things. Number one, to make sure we stay compliant, you look at the experience of the organization that's coming in, both in serving school meals and serving school meals in New Mexico. We thought that was really important. Menus are such a big component of it. So we want culturally appropriate menus. And Dean's going to talk a little bit more about that later. We wanted to look for innovative ideas that got kids interested and excited about the meals. So that was another component. You want to involve your schools and your general community so that they have a chance to have input into what we're doing with the students, not only in the specific meals, but in supporting other things like school gardens or after school programs, cooking classes, those sorts of things. And then we want a very strong management that's coming in that can run a very smooth operation. And as I said, the last one is the financial support. So those were the areas that we wanted to consider as we developed the RFP. And so now Michael Madrid is going to talk to you more about the RFP.
Thank you, Nancy. Board President Galbraith, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Cleveland. This procurement was initiated in cooperation with the Public Education Department, Student Success and Wellness Bureau. Part of the solicitation required the district utilize the PED documents as it relates to the RFP boilerplate and the final contract. Prior to the procurement hitting the streets, we had to solicit approval by the Student Success and Wellness Bureau, giving the district authorization to even advertise the solicitation. On February the 3rd, we received approval from Felix Griego, the Deputy Director of the Student Success and Wellness Bureau, and we hit the streets with the solicitation. On February the 17th, we conducted a pre-proposal meeting at Cleveland High School. This meeting provided prospective offers the opportunity to get a working knowledge of how to upload electronically their bids. Because of COVID, we're no longer accepting any paper copies. So we explained to them how to upload any questions that they may have, how to get access to the specifications. If we issued any addendas, where do you find those addendas? It also identified their deadline for questions. And we also explained how they can upload their response to the solicitation. In addition to the electronic bidding, we afforded them the opportunity to discuss the evaluation criteria as it relates to this procurement. As Nancy kind of mentioned, the evaluation criteria consisted of experience and references, innovation, involvement of students, staff, and patrons, menu of portion sizes on a 21-day cycle menu. We evaluated the on-site manager, the promotion of the school food service program, and cost. In addition to that, we also explained how are they to prepare their actual solicitation response. We explained, go back one more slide, please. We explained how they're to format the proposal, the different sections of the proposal, what content we were looking for at each of the areas so we could do a proper evaluation of their ability. We also discussed the sequence of events. We talked about when question deadlines was due, when the district could upload the last addenda, and when proposal uploads were required. At the conclusion of the Q&A, the pre-proposal, we conducted on-site visits of the facilities. We looked at the kitchen facility at Cleveland High School. We gave the vendors an opportunity to see what kind of equipment they would have available. They were able to ask any questions regarding the facility itself. We also visited Vista Grande Elementary School, and we also looked at Rio Rancho Middle School. We wanted to hit all 3 levels of schools that we have kitchen facilities at. Next slide, please. As stated earlier, proposals were due on March the 12th. These are the 4 companies that we received responses from. The evaluation committee evaluated each of the responses based on the mentioned evaluation criteria, and we scored and ranked the responses based on that information. We conducted site visits of various entities. We visited Gallup. We looked at Maria Mira's high school. We looked at one of the mid schools, Aracino High School. We met with the director of food services and the manager out there. We conducted a Q&A with them, asking questions about their overall satisfaction of the program, what are some of the lessons learned and some of the challenges. And we were also able to observe the actual serving of meals. We were able to observe the kids, how were they participating, kind of get an idea of what the reaction to the food that was being served. And we also had an idea of possibly the participation, at least as of that day. We also visited Socorro. We looked at one of the mid schools out at Socorro. We met with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent. At the end of that discussion, we once again observed the kids during a lunch program and observed how the meals were being displayed, what were the innovations like, what was the participation level of the students, what was the quality of food. We were able to taste the foods at the different locations. Those 2 locations, they were for the Southwest Food and Excellence. We also went to Alamogordo. We looked at their high school out there. We looked at the lunch program. We met with one of the directors out there. We observed, once again, the children or the students during their lunch program. We looked at the food. We were able to sample some of the food and kind of get an idea of what the overall operation consisted of. We also did a site visit at Cleveland High School. We met with the principal out at the location. Once again, we observed the students during a lunch program, a typical lunch program. We looked at the food that was being served. We were able to taste the food. The last company, we weren't able to conduct a site visit because they didn't have a presence in New Mexico. So it wasn't visibly possible to actually visit their location. This time I'll turn it over to Dean.
Can you hear me? Everything good? Okay.
Good.
Well, good evening, Board President Galbraith, members of the board, and Superintendent Cleveland. When I first started here with Rio Rancho and I saw the percentage of kids eating, I was very surprised to see that only 36 to 40% were eating on a daily basis. 36 to 40% is a very disturbing number. I came from districts that were serving 80, 85% daily, and I'm not used to seeing such a low percentage. With the 2 districts that we visited that SFE is currently in, Gallup has a participation of about 85 to 90%, and Socorro has anywhere between 80 and 85. When I brought back these numbers from the districts and using the districts that I worked in, I was told that the reason those districts had such a high percentage was because they were in a program that all kids could eat for free, which is a program called CEP. However, with the current waiver from USDA, all kids in this district are offered a free meal, and the percentage of participation still has not increased. During our visits to the schools, one area that we asked several questions to the SFE representatives were the use of local farmers. They were able to name several local farmers in the state that they work with, and they said that they are committed to New Mexico Grown. New Mexico Grown, a program that is a state funded for schools, which issues funds to purchase fresh fruit and vegetables from local farmers. They will be using these fresh produce in their menu planning to capture the local flavor of New Mexico. These local menus will be created from scratch, as most of their menus will be. In the school that we visited in Socorro, we observed 4 entrees being prepared from scratch. We saw pozole, lasagna, pizza, and a California burrito out in the food truck. The pozole had some commodity diced chicken. They usually use pork, but had an excess amount of chicken, so they got creative and used the chicken instead of the pork. SFE will work with Rio Rancho Public Schools on ordering and use of commodities to ensure that they are used properly. Next year's commodity entitlement will be about $446,000. Seeing the entrees that were being prepared, they put a lot of preparation into the presentation of the food. I personally I'm big on product quality, preparation, and presentation. I walked around to see what the kids were eating. I stopped to speak to some of them. I spoke to 12 middle school kids, and you know middle school kids are a tough sell. And every single one of them had nothing but good things to say about SFE. We all eat with our eyes, and if the kids see a fresh cooked product that is appealing, they will not hesitate to try it. SFE will use several marketing strategies, and one of them will be the use of digital menu boards. We did see some that were just installed in Gallup, and they're also being planned for Socorro. They will market according to our district. For example, in Socorro, a contest was held to design a logo for a food truck. A middle school girl came up with the logo with a warrior, which is their mascot. It had red and green chilies as the feathers on the headband of the warrior. One major plus for the district will be that they will have a chef on board as part of their management team. As a district, we will have open communication with the chef on the development of recipes and menus that will pull in our local cuisine. My mouth is dry. I'm sorry. With all these strategies I just pointed out, it should help my biggest concern, which is the lack of participation. Thank you. And now I'll turn over the next presentation to Shally.
Good evening, President Galbraith, members of the board, and Dr. Cleveland. I had the privilege of participating with this team and visiting several schools around the state as well as within our own district. And one of the biggest things that I focused on was the kids, really looking at what the quality of foods being served to our students was, and also what consumption they had, what their preferences were, how they were served as the customers in our schools. So really looking at what we saw around the state and how we can recreate those positive experiences with food within our own school district at all levels. So some of the things we looked at as far as value is not just that pricing point, but the value of what's being consumed. Are kids actually eating the food? Are they taking a tray and disposing of a large percentage of it? Is the food at lunch, breakfast, snacks serving a purpose to those students, or are they discarding things that they're not preferred? So really looking at that quality of what we're getting for the value and what's being consumed by those students. Again, to touch on what Dean said, talking about the increase of participation, we definitely have the kids in the building each and every day, and what can we do to get those students to participate in a school lunch program that's desirable to both the students, the parents, and also the members of the school that help support those students during those lunch times. And then also just serving students as our customers. Like I said, those are the kiddos that are coming in and out of our schools every day, whether it's pre-K student, a third grade student, middle or high school. They're there every day. And what we offer them, they have those choices on whether they take that or they bring something else. And some of them choose nothing at all. So really giving them options that are desirable. So looking at that flexible menu, I know one of the things we mentioned were local things, foods that students eat, right? If there's a food that they're not eating and it's not working, then not continuing to do the same things, but looking at how we can adapt those menus even, month to month, mid-year to meet the needs of our students and use those products to the highest. Really just being that value piece is what are we wasting, what are we using, and being efficient with that. Next slide, please. So when we did do the observations, and I know several of the other folks touched on the scratch cooking, the biggest thing we looked at is how processed are the foods? Are they prepared prior to the students being there? If so, how long in advance are the foods sitting? Are they, are they prepackaged and served in packaging? Are they something that's been just frozen, prepared, and served in a mass quantity? And what we saw were foods that were quick to prepare just before serving for the highest quality. And also when students are consuming those foods, how are they looking as far as the visual piece, right? Are they desirable when a student walks by and sees that lunch, or do they keep walking? Do they look at something and, it doesn't have that great look to it, so then they dispose of it, or they take a bite, or they kind of, shuffle it around on their plates. And what we really saw was variety. We saw students consuming foods, things that were desirable to the eye to draw students into those cafeteria areas, whether they had multiple areas or one serving area. The options were something that students were drawn to. We didn't see the amount of waste that we see sometimes in our own cafeterias, even currently. We saw true consumption and students enjoying what they were eating, right? Not just eating because this was the choice today, but actually being drawn to those items because they were preferred and adapted to their success rate among the students. So these are just some examples. I know we discussed the pozole, the burrito, the lasagna, but as you can see, these are visually appealing. It's not something that, looks partially cooked or inconsistently cooked. It's not coming out of the cellophane package. It's clearly had some work that went into it as far as those scratch ingredients. And as far as, of course, the commodities within the pozole, and then also looking at the burrito here in the middle, we saw a lot of the fresh fruits and vegetables being used, the fresh salsa, rather than just a side of corn. They got creative and they turned that into kind of an on-trend side of a corn salsa with black beans and, different jalapenos and things like that, so that it was something that students were drawn to and really enjoyed. And I think that was the biggest piece, of students enjoyed their lunch. Next slide, please. So looking at that student piece and really focusing on kids, not necessarily, serving things like every child's going to have something that they don't like, right? Maybe they love one thing and they don't love another, but giving them those options to try different foods and the foods that we're giving them being of an appropriate quality. I know I've worked in the classroom, I'm on lots of campuses, but I always think back to just my own kiddos and if I'm packing a lunch or if they're buying a lunch, right? We want that focus on kids. What are they going to eat? And I think that's what gets that participation. If we have parents that see that the food is quality, students are excited about the food, that's how we get that participation. So looking at serving those kiddos, whether it's a paid lunch, a free lunch, regardless of how and why a student is getting a school lunch, the quality needs to be as high as it possibly can. It shouldn't matter who that tray is going to. It needs to be desirable, it needs to have all of the components, and it needs to be a high quality. Of course, that nutrition piece we know directly ties back to the classroom. You're not going to have little ones in the afternoon that ate 10% of their lunch doing as well as they can. So we really want to see how that nutrition piece supports them academically. And then again, looking at likes and interests, right? If you're served something repeatedly that you don't care for, it's not going to make it a better experience just because you've done it before. So really taking into account what works, what doesn't. It's okay to abandon ship mid-menu. If something's not working, don't continuously put it on the menu. So making those decisions specific to our district and our students. Next slide, please. So just to touch again on some of those student-focused options, We did look at several other schools, like I said, around the state. And one of the things we looked at is what is their experience working with our students, right? New Mexico, I know a lot of us who were born and raised here, we have a very distinct cuisine. We take care of our kiddos, and just knowing how these schools are catering to their needs. We did look at both in-state and also out-of-state similar districts. I know we have some local neighbors over in Arizona that also use SFE that have a very similar demographic and size as far as volume to Rio Rancho. Again, those really on-trend offerings, right? What are they doing to make it desirable? Is it recognizable to kids? Do they like the content? Do they like the way it's prepared? Does it look cool? Kids like the way it looks, they're going to be drawn to it. So one of the things we saw, just trendy food items, we talked about the burrito, they threw the French fries in the burrito, right? So that was something that was already an ingredient they were going to use, but kids thought that was interesting. The food truck rotation, just something that's visually appealing. And then just that responsiveness. We looked at menus very extensively. What's on a menu, right? Is it the same thing in the same pattern where kids can figure out that, every third Tuesday is pizza, or did it have, change it up, right? Offer new things so that they don't get stagnant. So really looking at those rotations and also looking at the kind of variety. Is it a processed chicken product multiple days a week, or are they offering, a beef product, fresh salad items? Are they offering some of those commodities and local favorites mixed in? So really looking at that variety was a key priority for us as well. Next slide, please. And then just some more visuals for you of some of the on-trend foods we saw. We saw outdoor eating options with the food truck. We saw indoor, desirable looking pizzas and things like that, but also fresh options. So there were always true options, not just the same thing by a different name, whether it's a hamburger or a cheeseburger. To me, that's not an option. So were there true options for students? And that was very evident in what we saw. Next slide. So just some comparisons. I know we were able to visually go out and observe 3 of the vendors that were within the state, of course, our current vendor, and then also 2 around the state. So just some of their fresh options, their hot options, we were able to look at all of that. So these are just some things that we're seeing day to day currently in our schools, kind of what I'd call a true tray. It's not something that was put on display, but something that was served to a student that we observed. So these were some of the things that we saw for comparison. Next slide, please. And then again, just briefly to touch on some of the questions I stated were our focal points were looking at quality, right? Because quality is going to increase your participation. It's going to increase consumption and less waste. That quality piece has to be the foundation. So are they processed? Are they packaged? Is it scratched? Does it look and taste good? That's got to be the biggest one. I know having little guys at home myself, if it doesn't look good, they're not going to come within 3 feet of it. So it has to be something that really sells to those kiddos and says, this is something you want to eat for lunch. And then also, are we adequately seeing that consumption, right? Are they taking trays? Great, but are they throwing it away, right? That tick when you get a tray isn't the only thing we look at. I'm watching to see our kids, are they actually enjoying that lunch? Or are they tossing it? So that's an important piece too, is what the actual consumption is. Next slide. And now I'll turn it over to Arlene.
Good evening, President Galbraith. Can you all hear me? Good. President Galbraith, members of the board, Dr. Cleveland. My portion of the presentation will focus on the transition to a new food service provider and financial information. So SFE has assured us of an efficient and smooth 8-week transition process, which includes a commitment to the retention of the current food service staff without interviews. SFE will employ the food service staff at their current pay and offer a great benefit package. Next slide, please. SFE is also committed in investing over $750,000 to enhance the district's nutrition program, starting with their investment for an efficient transition, capital investments such as a food truck. And by the way, in this picture on the slide is the food truck that Dean spoke about at, I believe it was Socorro, where they were able to put their own design on that food truck. Another possible investment would be a smoker or even a tortilla making machine. The food truck will also be available for events such as fundraisers and athletic events. The investment also includes visibly enhancing signage throughout the district, and finally offer a variety to help grow participation, as we've all spoken about, with the use of the food truck. Next slide, please. SFE's approach to cost is designed to increase participation while meeting and exceeding all federal and state nutrition requirements. As a district food service improves through better quality and variety, the participation will increase as well as our revenue. In turn, the increased revenue will be used to continue improving the food service program. The fixed cost per meal will be $3.35. Please keep in mind that this is the price the district pays the contracted company for a lunch. This is not the student's cost. The breakfast and snack prices are figured using a conversion rate. And as Dean spoke about earlier, I believe he did, if not, I will let everybody know that USDA has extended the waiver through this next school year, so all students will be eating for free. SFE also offers a $750,000 guarantee return based on expected performance under normal circumstances. Before I turn it over back to Mr. Baker, I'd like to say that I believe our district's greatest asset in food service is our new food service director, Dean Gallegos. He offers a great deal of knowledge in food service and will provide consistent oversight focusing on high quality food. With that said, I will turn it back over to Mr. Baker.
Okay, President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the school board, I will wrap up this presentation for our team. My question to you, board, right now is, are you hungry yet? And I know when you're looking at pictures of food and we're talking about food, we get hungry. I could tell you the team spent many hours evaluating the submittals, literally reading hundreds and hundreds of pages, a lot of pictures of food. I think I gained 10 pounds while reading the submittals personally. But I feel really comfortable. I think we assembled a really great team. Personally, I learned a lot about food, nutrition, and about presentation and the taste of food that I never dreamed I would. So I felt really good about our team. I hope you feel good about our team as we went through the presentation. We had some very specific goals in mind while we went into this RFP. Probably the number one was we want to increase student participation. As Dean spoke earlier, that our participation is quite low, and our goal is to increase that. And we believe that if the food looks good, if the food tastes good, our students will have more of a tendency to use that food service, and hopefully that will also increase or help facilitate the educational process as well. We believe that SFE will be able to meet our goals in that regard. To ensure that SFE kind of walk the walk, so to speak, we had our team, not all of us, travel to different locations. Shelley, Michael, Dean, and Nancy did go, traveled to a number of locations to make sure that the food looked good, the food tastes good, and the companies were essentially doing what they purported that they would do. And so we took that extra step to ensure, again, that the food was good. Again, we expect SFE to provide good quality food products that taste good, that look good, that are nutritious, that meet USDA guidelines and other areas of compliance as well. We expect SFE to operate independently, and as Arlene just mentioned, guarantee a certain rate of return, which is almost double what we are receiving right now. So that's a real positive in regard to our financial situation. Finally, we expect SFE to retain all the current employees. We certainly would hate to see a new company come in and lay everybody off. That is not the case. They will take care of our current employees. They will provide a similar or better compensation package than what is currently offered. Finally, we do recommend Southwest Food Service Excellence as our food service provider for the 21-22 school year. At this time, the team would stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you so much for such a thorough report. I actually really want some lasagna right now. I'm not going to lie. That's what I've been thinking about since I saw that picture is lasagna. But we will go ahead and we'll start with questions, and we'll start with Wynn Coleman.
Thank you, and thank you to the team for investing the time and putting this together. A couple of questions that I have. When it comes to local produce and local ingredients, I'm curious kind of what percent we can expect to see as part of the menu, if there's even kind of, if you can provide that number. And how hard is that to incorporate that? And does that also impact the price, good or bad?
Okay, I can go and take that question. As far as a percentage, offhand, we really can't give any type of a percentage. A lot of it would depend on the harvest that the local farmers would have. Currently, SFE does work with several farmers from throughout the state, but being involved with the school nutrition over the years, I have built some great relationships with farmers from Velarde, from Chimayo, from Santa Fe, Corrales, Albuquerque, Las Cruces, Socorro. And what I would do is I would go out and look for certain products from all these different farmers. I am a strong believer in using local farms, and as long as they have product available, we should be able to get some in our schools.
So then how quickly can are you able to kind of move if there seems to be a problem with local? So I'm just curious if we can't get it local, how quickly can we get supplies from maybe a national supplier?
Oh, they're available. They're available weekly. From the suppliers that SFE would have. But these local farmers, I mean, they have quite a bit available, especially during the harvest season. I believe last year I was able to get product up until at least November, but from up north. But I'm able to purchase from down south in the spring.
Okay, good, thank you.
We can get some chili from Hatch.
So 2 more questions. My second question has to do with, I know, for example, at one of the high schools that a group sells pizza and chicken sandwiches from some, from a business outside of the district. And so how is that going to be addressed? Because I know that a lot of students, that's where they get their food at lunchtime. And if you're wanting to increase student participation, how will you deal with that?
Do you want to get it? That one, what, and I'm getting some, will you take it?
Yeah, he kept getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. Yeah, sorry about that audio problem. There are groups that are authorized to sell certain food products, such as DECA, for example. That process will continue. I just want to make sure I really understand Board Member Coleman's question. Those things will continue as we move into the future. Did that answer your question?
It does. I think that there's a fair amount of students that purchase that through the different groups. So I was just kind of curious, since the conversation was about increasing participation. So, and thank you. So my last question has to do with, I know as a parent how challenging it was to pay the account to get a refund. It was really kind of separate from the district. And so how are you going to address this now, since we're switching companies? Because I think it was Mealtime, wasn't that who was the one? And I just found it to be extremely difficult. And so are we still going to be using them, or is that going to be part of the transition?
Yeah.
Board Member Coleman, this is Arlene. We have not yet spoken with FSE to find out which financial system they are going to be using. But I can assure you that whatever system it is, we will do our very best to enhance the process to get the refunds in a timely manner.
And I'm just talking about, and Arlene, thank you. So I believe that the issue that I experienced was just one of the challenges. I just thought it wasn't very user friendly. And so I think that that's one of the things that I found to be a pretty substantial challenge. Even kind of logging in, it was asking for my father's middle name, and he doesn't have one. And so I couldn't get into my account to even pay. And I know that that's, kind of a personal one-off situation, but it just seemed to be kind of a challenge. So I'm hoping that that's something that's addressed as we look at making this transition.
I will speak with the company and we'll look into trying to alleviate those issues.
Okay, and that's all I had. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Vice President Morgan.
If I could pass to Noreen, that would just be great. I got a question, but I don't know how to ask it, to be honest with you. So let me punt to Noreen, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I have a question. What is the cost of a student lunch now, and will it increase with the new vendor when we have to start paying for lunch again? And then my second question is the compensation package for employees, is it the same as it? I know you said it was comparable, but are they going to get hurt at all in this transition?
Members of the school. members of the school board. Sorry about that audio feedback again, President Galbraith. So currently, meals to students are free. USDA has indicated that they will be extending literally the free lunch program for the next school year. So there won't be an actual cost to the students in that regard. And the second part of the question was?
Well, my question was, yes, I understand that they won't be paying next year, but what would they pay when payment is required in the future versus what they were paying now?
Yeah, so for elementary, it would be $265, and for high school, it would be $280.
Okay, and how does that compare with what we were paying before? I mean, is there a differential between Sodexo and SFE?
Yeah, that is the price, and the price essentially, yeah, the price is set. But I'm gonna turn that over to Nancy.
Let's see if I did this right. Okay, so the prices are set by the district, not by the contracting company, as to what students pay. So the prices that Mr. Baker gave you are the ones the students were paying up until COVID started. So that has not changed. USDA does require a formula calculation to be done every year to see how much you should charge, and then that comes to the board, and you can up to what they would say, or you guys can use other money to supplement it. But the price that students pay is
this is terrible.
I don't know why we're having so many technological problems tonight, but we are. I think the question, I want to be sure I understand. I think the question that Noreen is asking is, for the lunch a child will pay, will it go up because we're bringing in a new vendor?
no, who the vendor is doesn't determine that price, and USDA's formula is what will determine whether your price should go up. Well, it won't have anything to do with the cost of the vendor.
And if I may add something, I know that in policy, Policy 615, the school board shall be kept informed of the status of the food service program. Changes in meal prices shall be made only by the school board. So I know that that's something that we will be a part of. So.
I will tell you the history over the last several years, the USDA situation has required this district to increase its school lunch amounts to get closer to the actual cost. And so actually the increases over the last several years we've been required to do to be in compliance with federal regulations. And Arlene, if I didn't say that right, then jump in and correct me. Or Nancy or anybody. Okay.
Okay, my next question is, how much have we had to supplement Sodexo, and how much will we be supplementing the new company? Based on cost.
The programs have been self-supporting. Mike, you want to add anything to that? But actually made some additional revenue for the district, but we've always put it back into the program. We figure if that's people who pay for the meals, then the revenue should go back into the program. Mike, what would you add to that?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Dr. Cleveland. So the nutrition program is a separate program, separated from the operational budget. The program is self-supporting, and currently the guarantee or what the return is a little bit over 400,000. So with the new vendor, it will not quite double, but it will get pretty close to that. And so that guarantee, we'll take those funds and put it back into the system in order to improve the system. I hope that answered your question.
It did. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to go over to Catherine Cullen. Wynn, did you have your hand raised? Can I come back to you after Catherine? Okay, I'm going to come back to you after Catherine. Go ahead, Catherine.
Thank you. So we have it'll be for the 21-22 contract. And how many times can we extend that contract before we go back out to bid?
President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board, so we can extend that contract for 4 additional years.
Okay. And then I know with Sodexo, they had created the coffee station at Cleveland High School, and I know that was popular at at a time. Are they going to be running that as well?
We plan on extending that program to Rio Rancho High School as well, yes.
Okay, so the new company will be doing the coffee stations.
Yes.
Okay, and then we also previously they would have the summer food service program for the parks, and I don't know if they're going to be doing that again. But if so, are they willing to be able to do that as part of, because we usually have to contract with them on that.
Yeah, so we will be negotiating that with the city of Rio Rancho. It is my understanding that they are willing to continue that service.
And then we also, I think it was in 2019 or 20 early on, we had done a rental office for Sodexo. We did a lease for another one. Now with this change, I know we've had Sodexo for a long, long time. I mean, I can't even, I don't even know if we had anybody before them, but so with them, when they be moving out and then we get, would this new company be tenants of that?
Yes, they will be tenants of that lease. That will be paid for, it's my understanding, out of the nutrition fund, not the operational fund, however.
Okay. And then the only,
I think Arlene is shaking her head. I might have misspoke on that item. So sorry about that.
All right, Arlene, help us out.
She's waving her finger at me.
Okay, we can't see you, Arlene. There you go.
I guess
yeah, let's see her on screen.
Yeah.
okay, so it'll be paid out of operational. Is that why she's wagging her finger?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and then I know many years ago, I don't even know if you could do this with COVID or not, but we had kind of like the food recycling program, or where that some of the stuff was individually wrapped so that if they didn't eat it or open it, then they can donate it to. It was kind of like where other kids can get it. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So
Not called the recycle program, but it's something like that.
Yeah, sure. We will work with the new company in that regard as well. Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, it looks like you guys definitely did your due diligence on this, and I know it's a huge shift from what we've been doing for many, many years. So I really appreciate all the work. I don't know why you did not provide us with samples this evening, because now we're all hungry.
Yeah.
But we
had quite a conversation about that, actually.
Oh,
and we thought that we better get the board's approval before going in that direction. And so if the board decides to approve our recommendation, we will have a food tasting time for the board. And just to add this, the new vendor is asking for about an 8-week transition period. Assuming that hoping that the board approves our request, that will go to PED for final approval. Hopefully that will take about a week. So we're kind of on a, unfortunately, strict timeline here. But yes, we do plan on providing that some type of display and food tasting with the new vendor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to Wynn Coleman. After Wynn Coleman, we'll go back over to Jeffrey Morgan, and then of course Dr. Cleveland. We'd like to hear from her too. So Wynn Coleman.
With lunches being free for next year, what is in place for virtual students? I know at some point you were doing, if it was over the summer, like you could pick up lunches. And so is there going to be anything for those students that have decided to be 100% virtual?
Yes, ma'am. Same project or same program that we're working on now, and that's the grab and go meals. So that will continue.
All right, Jeffrey Morgan.
Mike, to you and your team, guys, thank you so much for putting the time in, the work in. Mike, I just got to ask, did Sedesco fall off that far? I mean, we've been with those guys for years, and I'm looking at this evaluation performance piece. They were ranked number 3. I mean, yeah, that's the piece I was looking at. We had them for years, and all of a sudden it looks like things just got bad for them. You don't have to go into details, and I'm okay with who you selected, but I was just looking at the comparison here, and it's almost like Sedexo just fell off. I mean,
Yeah, I think kind of my opinion on it is that that very well could happen, but I also think competition. There's kind of more quality competition is I think the way I looked at it. Some of these other companies are coming into New Mexico. They are attracting other districts, and they're performing quite well in New Mexico. And I know Dean and Nancy in particular, and to include Arlene, they've contacted PED and to get their opinion, because they deal with these vendors as well. And so they're not that they recommended any one vendor in particular, but they did speak rather highly of SFE, and so that spoke volumes to us as well. And I certainly don't. I think the competition was pretty significant. It was essentially a tight race between all the vendors. I think all of them did a very, very good job. But at the end of the day, the committee, I think, had some good facts and good evidence to support the recommendation of SFE.
thanks to Board Member Cullen for asking the question about the contract time frame. I was going to ask that. And for Noreen asking about the employees, I thought that was pretty cool for that company to come in and keep the staff that was already there. That's a big difference there. I really appreciate that. But again, Mike, as always, to you and your staff, thank you so much. Very good job. And looking forward to working to the new company if the board can agree upon bringing these guys in. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add?
I've just got a couple of things to the point. Historically, there were a couple of times I can recall for sure when we put out the bid, there was only one bidder. And I know that Randy went out and actually tried to get additional people to bid as he shared the companies that he had talked to. So I think that the climate, to Mr. Baker's point, has changed dramatically. And there is now increased competition coming in from other states in our region. So Sedexo worked with us for many years, and they were a good vendor. And I have some had some very good experiences with them over the years. But what we told the committee, and what we always tell the committees that do this kind of work, is go find the best you can for our kids. And so I think that's what the committee did. They went out, they looked very carefully, they looked to find the very best for our students. And I wish Sedexo well, and I thank them for their many years of service. We've only had 2 companies in the history of the school district. But I'm also excited to see what this new company can do and what they may be bringing in our district. But the landscape has changed dramatically over the last few years. And the other thing that has changed dramatically, and I think you picked that up this evening, is the whole complexity of food service. And the federal regulation, the whole commodities piece, it is extremely complex and an area where you can deal with serious liability if people become sickened by food or you don't adhere to the rules or the regulations or whatever. And so it is a very complex service. But I do appreciate the work that the committee did. They just put untold hours into this process to try to find what they thought would be the best for our students. And so I want to thank them for all the time and effort. And I know they gave everybody a fair shake in this. But you know, like I said, I do wish Sodexo well. They were a good contractor for many years, and very excited now to see what this new contractor can do.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cleveland. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for a very, very thorough report. I was so pleased to see that you traveled to these different places, these different cities, so that you could taste the food and see the food, as many as you could. And I think that just shows the great excellence of the team and putting forth this recommendation tonight. Is there anything else from both from Michael Baker's team or Dr. Cleveland or anyone from the board, any further questions or anything on this? Okay, I will entertain a motion if someone would like to make a motion for us.
I move acceptance of the award of RFP number 2021-009-FAC food service management contract. I move that we approve the recommendation of staff.
This is board member. Okay, this is board member Catherine Cullen. I second. Sorry, Joe.
Okay.
That's all right. That's all right.
Okay,
That's
we have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Catherine Cullen. Kim, can you get a roll call vote for us on this?
Yes, ma'am. Vice President Morgan?
Yes.
Secretary Scott?
Yes.
Board Member Cullen?
Yes.
Board Member Coleman?
Yes.
President Galbraith?
Yes.
That is 5-0.
Perfect. The motion carries. Thank you. For our next item of business and our last will be to consider the approval of language revisions to the purchase agreement for the sale of excess land near Mountain View Middle School. We have Lauren Hatch, our general counsel, and also Mike Baker, our chief operations officer, here to present for us.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Cleveland. I am Lauren Hatch, the district's general counsel, and I want to present this item for approval by the board. If you recall, on March 8th, the board approved a transaction to sell some excess land at Mountain View Middle School. The approval needed to be ratified by the State Board of Finance. And in the process of working with their staff, they identified a few changes, some tweaks that they'd like to see in the purchase agreement. We were able to work that out with the staff of the State Board of Finance and also with the buyers. And essentially, there's three classifications of changes. They don't change the terms of the agreement at all. It's just really the way that it's couched. And essentially, they wanted references to the seller, which is the district, making any warranties or covenants to be removed. They were acceptable of the word representations. And so we've gone through the purchase agreement and removed those references. I thought maybe we would have a red line in the board packet. I'm not sure if you got that as well. It's not very many changes. And I can point out where they're at if anybody would like to see those. The last classification and change was because this transaction has to be approved by the State Board of Finance. They wanted a very firm statement that was the case, and so we clarified above their signature line that the agreement is subject to approval by the State Board of Finance, and they were acceptable with that. The State Board then considered the transaction. It was approved unanimously by the board, with the caveat that the school board approved the changes to the purchase agreement we've just discussed, and also that we presented them a finally executed purchase agreement, and also the ultimate quitclaim deed that will convey the property when the transaction is completed. And I stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, I'm feeding back in yours, Lauren. I don't know why. Okay. Well, anyone from the board, do we have any questions? Catherine, no questions. Wynn, you have a question? Noreen, Scott, Jeffrey Morgan. Okay.
No.
No questions. All right, thank you so much for doing that. Dr. Cleveland, did you have anything you needed to add?
No, I do not.
Okay, okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Yes. This is Board Member Jeff Morgan. I make a motion for the approval of language revision to the purchase agreement for the sale of the excess land near Mountain View Middle School.
And this is Board Member Coleman. I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jeffrey Morgan and a second by Wynn Coleman. Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us?
Yes, I can. Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Cullen,
Yes.
Board Member Coleman. How many times have I messed that up tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
Jane. I mean
No.
Kim.
Ooh, I had that coming. President Galbraith.
Yes.
Okay, 5-0. It's been a long night.
boy.
All right. Thank you so much. You know, I know that Jane used to want to move your guys' names so that it wasn't so, because it's so close. So, all right. Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you, Kim, for doing that. Is there anything further before we go into advanced planning? Okay. I know, do I have to go? I will just announce a couple dates from our advanced planning, and then you guys can look at the calendar for further dates on that. The biggest thing, just that on April 29th, 2021, we have our audit committee meeting that will be at 4:30, and May 3rd there's a finance committee meeting at 4:30. Both of those meetings, along with the May 10th finance committee meeting, will all be virtual meetings. It will just be our regular board meetings that will be here in the boardroom. Those will be streamed. And so with that, our meeting is adjourned for tonight. Thank you all so much for attending.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kim, and thanks, John. I don't know if he's still on.